Hi, I'm Sarah Whiting, and I'm your Dean. Welcome to Commencement 2020 GSD Style. And let me be the first of many to offer you, the graduating students of Harvard's Graduate School of Design, my heartfelt congratulations. I love graduation. I also admit to loving the pomp and circumstance that marks this important day. That's why I'm decked out in my regalia. It's also why I'm really sad at not seeing all of you fill up Gund Hall in yours. Graduation is an important moment for all of you to pause and reflect back on your time here. Many of you might remember that almost exactly 8 months ago, about 750 of us gathered together in Sanders Theater for an all-school meeting to mark the opening of the new school year. That memory of so many of us in a single room, and such a stunning room at that, is ever more poignant today. In that all-school address, I made the point that our world at the GSD is in its own time zone, if you will. Students are suspended in a time and space that's outside certain constraints of reality. In other words, school time permits the luxury of being adjacent to, but not entirely within reality. It's that removal that enabled you to design new possibilities for our collective near horizon, envisioning better ways of living in our shared world. As we all know, reality imposed itself in the most unreal of ways midway through your final semester at the GSD. It's become ever more clear that that world out there, just past this YouTube screen, needs you. Design is a language that cuts across all our experiences, all our disciplines, all our geographies, and all our futures to tackle issues of public health, as well as the environmental, economic, political, social, aesthetic, technological, and big historical questions that unite us as global citizens. Now, more than ever, we need you, every one of you, to lead those conversations out there. But wait now, I'm getting ahead of myself. First, we really do need to graduate you. True to form, the GSD faculty and staff have queued up a unique celebration today, interspersing live and recorded feeds. We believe that what we're doing today is aligned with what we've asked all of you to do over your years here, presenting your work to a live audience, a public one, and using different media, being conscious of the different media, and also being willing to work on the fly if something goes wrong. The faculty also feels that we've gotten to know all of you very well over the years, so it's nice for you, your families, and friends to get a glimpse of us, of our personalities, and even of our homes. So here goes. To usher us through this adventure of a virtual celebration, let me introduce today's MC, who's beaming out to us from Piper Auditorium in Gund Hall, observing social distancing, of course, Rahul Malhotra, John T. Dunlop Professor in Housing and Urbanization, incoming Chair of the Department of Urban Planning and Design, and my Dean Designate, who's generously and graciously helped cover many of my duties during this time when I'm undergoing chemotherapy. Professor Rahul Malhotra, please join me on our YouTube stage.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the commencement. I stand here at Gund Hall to represent Dean Sarah Whiting and each one of you graduating students, our faculty, staff, as well as the GSD community, past and present. Given the circumstances, we are only 4 of us here at Gund Hall, a space that we would have actually liked you all to have gathered collectively to celebrate our graduates. We miss you being here, but we feel your vibes, and it's a great feeling. We know you're all here in spirit, so I think that's great. On this occasion, and in recognizing the importance of history and the underpinning it provides us for justice and our values as architects, landscape architects, urban planners, and designers more broadly, we want to begin by acknowledging that the land on which the school sits is the traditional territory of the Massachusetts people. We also acknowledge the Nipmuc and the Wampanoag people whose histories are intimately connected to the history of Harvard University. Thank you. And thank you again, Sarah, for the introduction. As Dean Designate of the Faculty of Design, it is my honor to welcome you to the 2020 virtual commencement of the Harvard University Graduate School of Design. I hope you're all enjoying the festivities so far. You connected to the commencement of the university. It was wonderful to hear Marty Barron's thoughtful words about truth, facts, and his recognition to the graduates of Harvard University. It was an amazingly strong, powerful message that we must carry with us. Every school year, the faculty and staff of the GSD are both happy and proud of this moment, when we witness the transition of our graduates from students to alumni. This threshold moment is of immense symbolic value. It marks the recognition of achievement through study and learning. We are proud of our graduates because we carry with us the sense of anticipation of the many consequences of your future, individual, and collective accomplishments. So we will begin today's events with the awarding of prizes. Then we will proceed to our Class Day address presented by artist and author Jenny Odell. And finally, turn to the primary purpose of this afternoon, the presentation of diplomas to those students who have this year completed their work towards degrees here at the Graduate School of Design. And with that, we will now begin the commencement awards portion of the ceremony, where we will recognize and acknowledge the students who have made outstanding contributions to their chosen areas of study during their time here at the GSD. First, I will present the school-wide awards, and those will be followed by awards given by the Departments of Architecture, Landscape Architecture, and Urban Planning and Design, and then awards given by the Master in Design Studies and Master in Design Engineering programs. First, the Gerald M. McHugh Medal is awarded each year to the student graduating from one of the school's post-professional degree programs who has achieved the highest overall academic record. This year, the medal is awarded to Karan Saharya, who is graduating today from the Master in Design Studies program. Karan has been a relentless student whose voracious appetite for learning across the multiple dimensions of Harvard University will serve him well as he seeks to apply the goals of social justice to planning and design in post-colonial India. Congratulations, Karan. Next, the Digital Design Prize is presented to the student who has demonstrated the most imaginative and creative use of computer graphics in relation to the design profession. This year, the prize is being awarded to Jia Jung, who is graduating today from the Master in Architecture program. Jia Jung's winning project, Automatic Affinities, offers a creatively and technically inventive vision for how machine learning and artificial intelligence may shape the future of architecture. Its rigorous and thorough approach showed an exemplary blend of computational and architectural sensibilities in concert with a clear design vision. Congratulations, Jia. Next, the Plimpton Pourvu Design Prize recognizes the top team or individual for a viable real estate project completed as part of the GSD curriculum that best demonstrates feasibility in design, construction, economics, and in fulfillment of market and user needs. This year, the prize is being awarded to Mackenzie Wasson, who is graduating today from the Master in Architecture program. Mackenzie's winning project is titled Building Buras, a hurricane-adapted Caribbean resort, and is situated in the wake of Hurricane Irma. In the project, Mackenzie pairs a disruptive business model with unconventional architecture in a way that yields new realms of opportunity for local investors and resort guests in the British Virgin Islands. Congratulations, Mackenzie. The Peter Rice Prize honors students of exceptional promise in the school's architecture and advanced degree programs who have proven their competence and innovation in advancing architecture and structural engineering. This year's prize is being awarded to Peteris Lazovskis, who is graduating today from the Master in Architecture program. Beatrice's thesis project integrates structural and environmental considerations in a material-sensitive design approach. The work shows an innovative and imaginative solution to retrofitting the post-Soviet mass housing developments that are common in Eastern Europe. Congratulations, Beatrice. Next is the Sinclair Kennedy Traveling Fellowship, which comprises a traveling fellowship program that graduate students from all schools at Harvard are eligible to apply for. The fellowship supports a full academic year of research at a destination outside the United States, and so you might imagine competition from them is very high. Which makes it all the more pleasing to announce that Harvard selected a recipient from the GSD for one of the fellowships this year. Elena Brigitte Clarke, who is graduating today from the Master in Design Studies program. For the fellowship, Elena will be traveling to Italy, where she will be studying Rome's long history of struggles with housing rights and forced evictions. These are issues that now intersect with the city's more recent struggles with migration and the rights of migrants. Elena's research will investigate the intersection of these protracted issues in Rome, particularly as they affect young male migrants from West Africa. Congratulations, Elena. And finally, the Fulbright U.S. Student Program is an international exchange program in the fields of education, culture, and science, offering advanced research, study, and teaching opportunities in over 140 countries. We are pleased that this year a Fulbright grant has been awarded to James Carrico, who is graduating today from the Master in Architecture program and Master in Urban Planning program. In Hong Kong, James will be researching composite buildings, massive hyper-dense structures that contain a mix of domestic and non-domestic uses. The research will be used to inform future sustainable urban development. Congratulations, James, and to all the recipients of this year's awards. Thank you. And now to present the awards given out by the Department of Architecture. It's my pleasure to welcome Professor in Practice and Chair of the Department of Architecture, Mark Lee. Mark, it's wonderful to see you.
Good to see you, Rao.
Are you in LA?
I am here, yes.
And I hope you're not heading out to the beach like everyone else in your city after this event.
I'm not. The beaches are indeed packed, in the county with the largest number of coronavirus cases in the Western U.S., but I have not been myself. I'm trying to keep the mindset that beneath the paving stones is the beach.
Good way to look at it. Stay safe. Now, before you announce the awards for the Department of Architecture, is there anything you would like to say about the work that came out of the department this year?
Yes, I would. I think the incredible work that came out this year has been truly exceptional, especially given the circumstances of working in isolation for half of the semester. When I look at the work, I think we see more digital models that bear resemblances or traces of physical artifacts. We've seen more drawings, particularly hand-drawn ones, that convey a sense of immediacy or urgency. All in all, I would say that we see a commitment to the physical despite the norm of virtual interaction across great distances. The exceptional quality of the work is truly a testimony of the strength of our graduates, and I'd like to offer my congratulations as you embark on a meaningful and rewarding career in architecture. And I'm now very pleased to announce the awards administered by the faculty of the Department of Architecture.
First is the American Institute of Architects Medal, which is awarded to a professional degree student in a Master in Architecture graduating class who has achieved the highest level of excellence in overall scholarship throughout the course of their studies. The AIA Medal for the class of 2020 is being awarded to Ian Miley. Demonstrating an unwavering commitment, the faculty applaud Ian's brilliant dedication to scholarship across his coursework and across a variety of contexts, including history and theory, technology, and studio design work. Ian's outstanding academic achievement, coupled with the abundant generosity he brought as a TA and as a citizen of the GSD, demonstrate the breadth and depth of his accomplishments as an intellect of the first order. Congratulations, Ian. Next is the Alpha Rho Chi Medal, which is awarded to the graduating student who has achieved the best general record of leadership and service to the department, and who gives promise of professional merit through their character. The faculty of the Department of Architecture is pleased to award the Alpha Rho Chi Medal to Milos Mladenovic. Alongside the excellence and originality displayed in his design work and scholarship, Milos had been involved in countless aspects of student life during his time at the GSD, both academic and extracurricular. Whether assisting a fellow colleague with a project in his role as a digital fabrication TA or in facilitating important intellectual debates in the school as an editor of Open Letters, Milos' patient, collaborative influence in the school has been urgently significant. Congratulations, Milos. Next, we have the James Templeton Kelly Prize, which recognizes the best final design project submitted by a graduating student in each of the architecture degree programs. This year, the prize is awarded to Ian Malley, who is graduating today from the Master in Architecture 1 program, and Anna Goga, who is graduating today from the Master in Architecture 2 program. Ian's thesis project is a proposal for the Chancery in Moscow and shows extraordinary fluency in the plural concerns of architecture. It is an enormous literary thesis in both the linguistic and cultural sense, ranging from Greek dramaturgy to a computational recoding of Mies van der Rohe, from geometric regimes to the logic of bureaucratic redactions. It is a project that symbiotically links critical research and critical invention to profound and dazzling effects. Anna's thesis project on all counts conceptually rigorous and formally ambitious. From non-material to material, her architecture engages disciplinary questions with skill and excellence. She's a generous designer who invited all members of the GSD to physically share one half of her desk for an entire year, a performance-based project she titled Common Space, which we will all miss having in gun hall trays for years to come. Congratulations, Ian and Anna. Next, the Julie Amory Templeton Traveling Fellowship is given to a student in the Department of Architecture on the basis of academic achievement as well as the worthiness of the project to be undertaken. This year's recipient is Radu-Remus Macovei. The faculty have enjoyed Radu-Remus' astounding and consistent body of work produced throughout his time at the GSD, accumulating in a brilliant thesis that demonstrates calibration and virtuosity from the individual to the urban scale. His proposal for the Appleton, Ligneous Worlds, promises a rich investigation of the material capacity of wood to generate unique forms and shape civic spaces. Congratulations, Radu-Remus. The Kevin V. Kieran Prize recognizes the highest level of academic achievement among students graduating from the Post-Professional Master in Architecture program. This year, we are pleased to award the prize to 3 students, Nicholas Delgado Elsega, Yotam Ben-Hur, and David Mitchell Kim. Nicholas has distinguished himself as one of the leaders of his class. From the Caribbean shores, he brought a warmth and gregariousness that made him good company to everyone and a welcome participant to many Harvard venues that he engaged. A well-trained architect, he embodies the qualities that we hope to instill in any advanced GSD student: curiosity and openness to new ideas and an eagerness to unlock doors that lead to new paths. He approaches his work with an unyielding critical mind and fearless ethical demeanor. K. Shavera. Yotam always approaches his projects with an intense curiosity. He is never afraid to express the continually test bold ideas and is guided by a principle that if 100 fail, one excellent idea will prevail. The faculty have admired his light-hearted character and precocious manner, both of which belie the deeply serious architectural thinker he is. He often gives the impression of an artist or mad scientist who arrives at a brilliant solution as if by magic, but underneath is a formidable work ethic and familiarity with the tools of the discipline that together drive his brilliance. David is interested in how architects can bring aspects of his own personal histories to reveal new possibilities for a given site. At the GSD, David's journey down his path began with a project based on spatial memory, a powerful video exploration into the world of baby amnesia. A fanciful world of distorted scale, time, form, and materiality. A space where ceiling fans become explosions of sound and light, where the underside of a table becomes a place for refuge. A bathtub becomes a mystical world of suspension where soothing sounds of human voices gave solace to stress and sadness. David is recognized as an exceptional talent, and we very much look forward to seeing all that he will accomplish. Congratulations, Nicholas, Yotam, and David. Finally, the Department of Architecture Faculty Design Award was established with the aim of recognizing significant achievement within a body of design work completed by a student at the GSD. This award is given to a graduating student from each of the department's 2 programs. We are pleased to present the Faculty Design Award to Euipoom Estelle Yoon, graduating today from the Master in Architecture 1 program, and Hee Young Pyun, graduating today from the Master in Architecture 2 program. Estelle's record of design work at the GSD shows a remarkable and remarkably consistent commitment to both architecture's core principles and a spirit of technical experimentation. Her ability to move deftly across and between the digital and physical dimensions of contemporary architecture are matched by an ability to discern the important theoretical and cultural issues at stake in each project. The result is a truly unique body of design work. Hee Young is interested in the ways architecture can influence the sustainability of living things. One project in particular that exemplified her talent to the faculty was the design for a kind of sanitarium intended to suspend time and nourish life for human and animal species, a place where the healing rays of the sun extend life and the coastal waters provide sustenance. It is an architecture of collapsed spatial, textural, and material complexity that creates an aura of suspended time and tranquility. Hee Young is a special talent, and we look forward to seeing what her future brings. Congratulations to Estelle and Hee Young and to all the recipients of this year's award. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and congratulations to the students who received these awards. Really well done. Now to present the awards given by the Department of Landscape Architecture, it's my pleasure to welcome Professor and Chair of the Department of Landscape Architecture, Anita Beresbitia. Anita, wonderful to see you.
Wonderful to see you, Rahul, in this most celebratory day of the academic year.
Yeah, what a lovely day. You're in Concord, right?
I am. And it's very bucolic here.
Nice.
And I have to say, I am having a really hard time staying indoors.
And you've managed to obviously stabilize your internet connection because you were having trouble with that. So it's good to see you stable and clear.
Well, I'm counting on these amazing headsets that you sent over.
Great. So before you announce the awards for the Department of Architecture, tell us something about what the central issues were with regard to the concerns the department had and your students worked through.
Sure. The work that comes out of the Department of Landscape Architecture this year is really amongst the strongest we have seen. Students tackled difficult issues that burden environments and society around the world. Climate change, environmental justice, and an expanded role for public realm landscapes were topics that permeated the curriculum throughout. The work is incisive, political, committed to reimagining a more just, equitable future. Most of all, I admired the can-do ethos of this class, their capacity to unveil what is invisible and to demonstrate the interconnectedness of all things across scales of time, space, place, regions, and territories. I am very pleased, therefore, to announce the awards administered by the faculty of the Department of Landscape Architecture. First is the Landscape Architecture Thesis Prize, which is given to the graduating student who has prepared the best independent thesis during the past academic year. This year, the thesis prize is being awarded to Chelsea Kilburn. Chelsea's thesis is titled That Sinking Feeling, Subsidence Parables of the San Joaquin Valley. In her time at the GSD, from her leadership of women in design to her unflagging support of her peers, Chelsea has distinguished herself as an individual who cares deeply about creating communities around design. Her thesis imagines a honky-tonk world of truck stops and county fairgrounds in California's agricultural San Joaquin Valley, where extreme rates of groundwater extraction cause land subsidence. In Chelsea's design proposal, subsidence is reconceived as a generative infrastructural force that is able to meaningfully shape the ground for the retention, remediation, and distribution of water that can then be utilized in the recharge of a critically depleted aquifer. The thesis offers, with poignant optimism, New Cultures of Living in the Context of Climate Change. Congratulations, Chelsea. Each year, the faculty in the department nominates a student for the Landscape Architecture Foundation Olmsted Scholar Program. The program recognizes students with exceptional leadership potential. This year, the faculty is pleased to award the title of 2020 Landscape Architecture Foundation Olmsted Scholar to Nadyeli Quiroz, who is graduating today with a master's in both landscape architecture and design studies. Nadyeli's work at the Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh and her earlier work with a women's embroidery and sewing cooperative there exemplifies the Landscape Architecture Foundation's mission to support students who use ideas, service, and leadership to foster human and societal benefits. Of her work in studio at the GSD, the faculty observed that Nadyeli never stops questioning ideas, going beyond the case study to situate it in a broader cultural panorama. She has excellent ability to communicate the nuances of her thoughts, making every meeting an exciting opportunity for in-depth conversations. Congratulations, Nadyeli. The Norman T. Newton Prize is given to a graduating landscape architecture student whose work best exemplifies achievement in design expression as realized in any medium. This year, the prize is awarded to Siwen Xie. Siwen expresses her design through every possible measure, ranging from a sketch diagram and simple cross-sections to animated perspectives and engineering simulations. Combining the analog and the digital, the exploratory and the codified, her ability to bring together both the logic and the poetic in the representation of landscapes yields works of great synthesis and breadth of knowledge. Congratulations, Siwen. The Peter Walker and Partners Fellowship for Landscape Architecture is awarded to support travel and study for a graduating GSD student to advance their understanding of the body of scholarship and practices related to landscape design. This year, we're pleased to award the fellowship to two students, Carson Fisk-Vittori and Danica Danielle Youngson, who is graduating today with a master's in both landscape architecture and design studies. Carson is a truly original thinker, maker, and creator. Her endless curiosity is matched only by her boundless creativity and her infatuation with the vegetal. For her thesis titled Shifting Kind, Conversing with a Moving Forest, she explored novel plant assemblages, alternative tree care practices, and community engagement to guide the evolution of an iconic East Coast forest, the southern New Jersey pinelands. Guided by her muse, the pinelands beetle, she is as generous a human as she is a designer. Danica, meanwhile, is known among the faculty as an engaging and persistent thinker, whose work always has a courageous dimension. She follows unexpected paths, takes unforeseen turns, always to arrive at a design that is meaningful, urgent, and ambitious. As president of Student Forum this year, a post she held with grace in the face of great pressure, her presence will be missed in Gund Hall. Congratulations, Carson and Danica. The Jacob Wiedemann Prize is awarded to the student of the most distinguished design achievement graduating from the Department of Landscape Architecture. This year's prize is awarded to Jonathon Koewler. Jonathon is known among the faculty as an excellent designer across scales and media. Whether in the phalloscapes of a declining Arles in France, inserting the idea and the fact of wilderness in the heart of Seoul, Korea, or rethinking Boston Harbor in the face of climate risks, there is no challenge that his expansive imagination will not tackle with passion, rigor, and an eye for exquisite design. But it is his generosity, his good nature, his extreme attention to detail, and, as those close to know him know, his delicious shortbread that also set him apart. He can lead and do, inspire and negotiate, invent, and realize. Congratulations, Jonathon. Next are the American Society of Landscape Architecture Awards, for which the department nominates students each year. This year, the faculty are pleased to present the ASLA Certificate of Merit to two students, Michael Cafiero and Isaac W. Stein, who is graduating today from the Master in Landscape Architecture program and the Master in Design Studies program. Michael traverses diverse scales and dimensions, from bedrock to the atmosphere and from a 1 square meter area to an urban superblock. In addition to his talent as a designer, his sincerity, perseverance, and warm-heartedness enable him to operate at a very high level. Isaac joined the MLA to continue an interest in sea level rise and climate adaptation. He brought a unique level of maturity and a clear agenda for research tied to design and practice. His thesis is testament to this pairing of scholarly rigor and practical knowledge, in that he combined spatial and design speculation with clear analysis of how current policy limitations materialize along the urbanized coast. We are also very pleased that this year the ASLA Certificate of Honor is being awarded to Samuel Murdoch Gilbert. Sam is not only a complete designer, as we say, in landscape as a medium. As a technologist, he also is involved in many aspects of where the natural and contemporary built world intersect. He has worked in what are often messy and shifting places, most recently in coastal mangrove forests, polluted canals, and large river systems, often seen balancing in a kayak or knee-deep in salty mud sediment. Always optimistic about his work, Samuel is a standard bearer for the discipline. Congratulations to Michael, Isaac, and Samuel. And finally, the Charles Elliott Traveling Fellowship is awarded annually as the highest honor by the Department of Landscape Architecture to one of its graduates. This year, the fellowship is being awarded to Andy Lee, who is graduating today with a master's in both landscape architecture and urban planning. Andy Lee is a fine example of the future landscape architect, a type that we are proud to say is unique to the GSD. He is a designer, a researcher, and a leader. He offers distinctive perspectives on how policy and legal frameworks affect the use and management of landscapes, and how an understanding of these frameworks can inform effective, beautiful, and meaningful design interventions at all scales. Andy also understands that future designers will need diplomacy and strong leadership skills, thoughtfulness and empathy, all qualities he has shown himself to have in abundance. Congratulations to Andy and to all the recipients of this year's awards.
Thank you, Anita, and congratulations to the landscape architecture students who received these awards. Well done. Now, to present the awards given by the Department of Urban Planning and Design, it's my great pleasure to welcome Professor in Practice and Interim Chair of the Department of Urban Planning and Design, Alex Krieger. Alex, wonderful to see you.
Nice to see you, Raul. Pleasure to be with you as we have in prior years at commencement.
And where are you broadcasting from?
Well, not at the beach either. Just across the river in Boston, about a 20-minute bicycle ride away.
I'm sorry that your book came out at a timing when we were hoping to have events and book signings and things around it, your book City on the Hill. And so I'm sorry that didn't happen. We hope we can have you back in the coming months. But have you been doing virtual book talks?
Yes, there's virtual book talks are just absolutely fine. It's the book signing, the virtual book signing part that's a little bit disappointing.
Anyway, before you announce the awards for the Department of Urban Planning and Design, would you like to tell us a little bit about the work that came out of the department, but also something about the composition of the department?
Well, yes, the academic year, as been mentioned, has been remarkable, not least for how well we sort of adapted, the students in particular, to these strange circumstances. We were somehow able, against odds, to somehow zoom ahead in the process. And it was not just the amount and quality of the work that's been impressive. It's the commitment to certain themes and issues that launched these projects, addressing resilience to climate change, social inequalities, projects about environmental stewardship, public health, well-being, professional ethics. And it is this increasing dedication to humanistic concerns that are so very heartening as the students in our department, the two programs, the urban designers and the planners, set out to contribute to the world outside of Fair Harvard and Gund Hall. And they proceed to do so as sort of kindred spirits, as planning-savvy designers and as design-minded planners. And so it gives me great pleasure to announce the awards administered by the faculty of the Department of Urban Planning and Design. First is the award for academic excellence in urban planning and urban design, which honors graduate students in those programs that have achieved the highest academic record. This year, the award is being given to Amelia Muller in urban planning and Soledad Patiño, a student in urban design. Amelia has been an outstanding scholar throughout her studies in the urban planning program. And she has also been very active in student governance, indeed being a natural leader herself. So we know that she will go on to achieve great things throughout her career, both as a practicing planner, but also as a leader within the planning profession. Soledad has explored an incredible range of issues, subject areas, and disciplinary concerns in the urban design program. Her facility in design, interest in theory, research, and ethics have situated her as a multi-faced intellect, and this range of curiosities will serve her very well in however she chooses to set out to improve the world. So congratulations to Amelia and congratulations to Soledad. Next is the award for outstanding leadership in urban planning and urban design, which again honors graduate students from each program who have demonstrated leadership during their time at the Graduate School of Design. This year's recipients are Emily McGovern-Duma in urban planning and Laura Greenberg in urban design. Emily has been a leader in many ways, as a student activist, as a convener, both within the school and outside the school, and recently in relationship to the innovative participatory budgeting process that's been going on, always bringing to the program very positive energy and a commitment to inclusive design decision making. Laura has cultivated a fearless curiosity and commitment to confronting issues of race and inequality through design practice. Her deeply intentional curricular and research agenda has centered on topics of spatial inequity and structural racism. And she will no doubt continue to be a champion for racial equity, including in the various acts of design and planning, across her career, indeed across her life. Next is the Department of Urban Planning and Design Thesis Prize, which is given to graduating students, again in each of the programs, who have prepared the best independent thesis during the past academic year. This year, the Thesis Prize is awarded to Margaret Haltom in Urban Planning and Justin Cowley in Urban Design. Margaret's thesis focuses on a timely and important topic, the removal and redesign of Confederate monuments, the redesign of places in which Confederate monuments exist. The deliverable of her thesis is actually a request for proposals very creative, as it offers to incorporate, of course, theory and history, but also being directly useful if such a process were to begin. The faculty also appreciated that Margaret worked with a client on this project, a client that offered a substantial feedback that Margaret indeed incorporated into her work. Overall, her thesis combines policy, planning, and design in an extremely thoughtful and in a particularly poignant way as well. Justin's thesis is an impressive inquiry into Western Australia and the city of Sydney and the region. It focuses on how public universities are not only playing a major role in the urban economic development of Australian cities, but also are generating a new tertiary educational geography of vertical campuses that are embedded in the urban fabric and infrastructure of the metropolitan region. An issue that, of course, occurs in other parts of the world, which Justin is very interested in and concerned about. So congratulations to Margaret and to Justin. Now, the Award for Excellence in Project-Based Urban Planning, which is given to students who have demonstrated exceptional ability in urban planning projects, including in research efforts and design studios throughout their studies. This year, it is being awarded to Brett Alexander Miriam. The faculty has been particularly impressed by Brett's body of guided, independent, project-based, and studio-based work. In every case, it has been characterized by a high level of thoughtfulness, comprehensiveness, and creativity, and shows a remarkable array of both planning and design skills. Congratulations to Brett. Next is the Award for Excellence in Urban Design, which is given to students who have demonstrated exceptional design ability throughout their course of study in the urban design program. This year it is being awarded to Sarah Fayed. Sarah has shown an impressive capacity to work across different fields, including landscape architecture and planning and technology, and at the same time remains deeply committed to understanding the promise of urban design. She's also brilliant in her ability to both graphically and verbally, and indeed in narrative form, convey complex ideas, a rare talent. We will no doubt witness some remarkable achievements as she proceeds into her careers outside the GSD. Congratulations to Sarah. Next is the American Institute of Certified Planners Outstanding Student Award, which recognizes attainment in the study of planning by students graduating from accredited planning programs. The recipient of the award is chosen by a jury of faculty from each of the accredited schools of planning around the country. For the class of 2020, the AICP Outstanding Student Award is presented to Juan Pablo Reynoso. Juan is clearly one of the top graduates of the urban planning program, has been a community builder within the school and a tremendous ambassador outside the school, including with prospective students. Active with the Healthy Places student group, he forged connections to the School of Public Health, where he has been a pioneering joint degree student, joint between the design school and the School of Public Health. Congratulations to Juan. Now I am pleased to announce two prizes for which all GSD students are eligible. First, the Ferdinand Colorado Mansfeld Prize for Superior Achievement in Real Estate Studies. It's awarded annually to a graduating student from any program that has exhibited superior accomplishment and leadership in real estate studies. This year, the prize is being awarded to two students. Patrick Brega, who is graduating today with his master's in urban planning, and Adriel Deller, who is graduating today with a master's in design studies. Patrick has demonstrated exceptional skill and competence throughout his studies in the urban planning program. He has done exemplary work combining real estate finance skills with GIS methodologies, with urban design and planning expertise. And he has demonstrated leadership among his colleagues, and again outside, for example, with the Cambridge City Council, in his advocacy for more affordable housing, a desperate need in our cities. Adriel portrayed an impressive combination of academic achievement and also active community involvement that has served him very well in the wide range of real estate subjects that he has studied during his 2 years at the GSD. His intellect and his hard work has earned him the highest academic performance among students whose concentration in real estate is both the Master of Design Studies and the Urban Planning program. So much congratulations to Patrick and to Adriel. And finally, established by Ronald Drucker in 1986, the Drucker Traveling Fellowship is open to all students at the GSD who demonstrate excellence in the design of urban environments. It offers students the opportunity to travel in the United States or abroad, or indeed in both, to pursue study that advances understanding of urban design, undertaking a very particular research effort. This year, the faculty has awarded the fellowship to Laura Greenberg, who's graduating today with her master's in urban design. Laura's proposal asserts that the problem that most faces urban environments are the climate crisis and the sharply increasing inequalities. And so she's chosen to tackle both. She will study eco-districts in various cities around the United States. Her research seeks to do sort of two things. First, understand how the racial and economic makeup of eco-districts influences their emphasis on either social or ecological priorities. And then secondly, to assess the community benefits, if indeed there are any, of becoming an eco-district when compared to similar neighborhoods in the same city. Her overarching goal is to understand, to highlight, to advance a collaborative, value-based practice focusing on existing communities. So congratulations to Laura, and indeed congratulations to all of the award-winning students this year, and in fact to all of our accomplished urban planning and design students. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and congratulations to the students of both urban planning and urban design who received these awards. So well deserved. And now to present the awards given by the Master in Design Studies program, it's my great pleasure to welcome Michael Hayes, Elliott Noyce Professor of Architectural Theory and co-director of the Master in Design Studies program. Michael, good to see you.
Hi, Rahul. It's great to be here. You've made this a lot of fun.
Thanks. Are you at the Cape?
I'm in Truro on Cape Cod. Yes.
Wow. I thought your getaway motif was the primitive hut, but I think it looks like you're in the white cube.
Well, no, I'm in the primitive hut.
Oh, wonderful.
But the primitive hut, if you're an architect, a primitive hut has to have a white wall still.
Oh. Great, thanks. That's really good to know. And nice to see a historian and a critic designing one of these. Sort of, I think.
Well, sort of. It helps if your life partner has her own architecture firm.
I knew there was something behind this, but very nice to see you. And before you announce these awards for the Master in Design Studies program, would you like to say something about the spectrum and the diversity of the kinds of research projects and disciplinary tracks that you have within this program?
Well, exactly. That's part of the point. The work of these students this year, I have to say, represents some of the highest intellectual and artistic achievements in the GSD. And part of the reason that works is the Master of Design Studies program is an advanced research degree program. It's unique at the GSD in that it cuts across all three departments, so it can take advantage of the entire range of resources of all those disciplines. So our students are able to take advantage of the extraordinary expertise of our faculty, ranging from technology, history and conservation, design and media systems, but also social activism through art and design. So they take a wide range of courses. Some elect to do independent study, but all these are grounded in design and grounded in the conviction that design is a practice, but it's also a mode of knowledge. And it's a kind of knowledge that is especially relevant for the myriad issues in our world today, but also the many, many opportunities. So with that, I am very happy to announce the awards administered by the faculty in the Master of Design Studies program.
First is the Dimitris Pikionis Award, which recognizes a student for outstanding academic performance in the Master in Design Studies degree program. This year, the award is being given to Wilfried Garon. Wilfried is in the History, Philosophy of Design and Media area. Wilfried's research on the urban politics of the Nuyorican movement focused on an improbable set of geodesic domes. Wilfried has an uncommon ability to circle around a problem, seeing new angles at each turn, arriving at an unexpected view of the whole. His commitment to researching and exposing unfamiliar aspects of Latinx cultural identity has been unwavering. Congratulations, Wilfried. Next, the Daniel L. Shodek Award for Technology and Sustainability honors the memory and legacy of Professor Daniel Shodek and the standards of excellence he established during his 40 years of teaching and mentoring at the GSD. The award is given annually in recognition of the best Master in Design Studies thesis in the area of technology and sustainable design. This year, the prize is being awarded to Xinzhu Chen. Xinzhu's thesis, titled The Use of Phase Change Materials in Heated Buildings, a Solar Adaptive Passive System, employed a rigorous use of simulations. Impressively, it bridged digital and material research to produce an innovative contribution to the field of building science. Congratulations, Xinzhu. Finally, the Design Studies Thesis Prize is given annually for the best thesis by a Master in Design Studies student, though this year the prize is being awarded to 2 students, Angela Marina and Karan Saharya. Angela's thesis is titled A Guidebook to an Empty Land, Kalimantan and the Shadows of the Capital. Her project offers critical tools to engage with some of the most urgent challenges facing Indonesia: the climate crisis, a sinking capital, a long history of colonization and extraction. It is situated at the intersection of academic research and activism, and is at the same time an artistic and historical manifesto. With this award, we acknowledge and further encourage Angela's rigorous research, creative aesthetic engagement, and cultural and social activism. Karan's thesis is titled In the Name of Heritage, Conservation as an Agent of Differential Development, Spatial Cleansing, and Social Exclusion in Mehrauli, Delhi. Through an examination of the Qutb Minar monument and its impact on the surrounding urban village of Mehrauli in Delhi, Karan's thesis impressively weaves together conservation practices through the frames of Orientalist, conservationist, political, and utilitarian gazes, all these employed in the name of heritage. His analysis reveals underlying social-political conflicts, instruments of spatial cleansing, differential development, and social exclusion that come together in the question of who has the right to the city, arguing in turn for new forms of conservation to suit the post-colonial nation. Congratulations to Angela and Karan and to all the students who received this year's awards. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael, and congratulations to the students who received these awards. Well done. Now to present the awards given by the Master in Design Engineering program, it is my great pleasure to welcome Martin Bechtold, Kumagai Professor of Architectural Technology, Director of the Doctor of Design Studies program, and Co-Director of the Master in Design Engineering program. Martin, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Raul. Great to be here. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon. And where are you broadcasting from today?
So I'm pretty close. I'm 2 miles away from the GSD in Cambridge, and I decided to embellish my primitive hut with some brick, as you can see, just to provide a sense of materiality in these virtual times.
How appropriate. The MDE program is, relatively young. Can you tell us a little bit about its origins?
Sure. It really came about 4 years ago in conversation with faculty and the deans of the GSD and the Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Science at Harvard. And it based on the understanding really that a lot of the societal problems we have today cannot be understood, let alone solved, with the view of a single discipline. So we decided to create a new program from scratch that combines design and engineering methods, and it's very much an in-the-world program where students work on real-world problems. Since they take classes across the campus, they're not just citizens of the GSD and of SEAS, but they become very much a part of the university at large.
Thank you. And before you announce the awards, can you tell us a little bit about the kinds of research that was pursued by these students?
Sure. Let me talk a little bit about the final projects this year that have really provided intriguing solutions for some of the kind of dilemmas in society we have today. We've seen a range of efforts, some working on sort of personal and community empowerment. Others have worked on topics in sustainability, aging, and road safety. What's been quite remarkable really has been the substantial engagement with stakeholders that this cohort has really been exemplary with. Some have worked with local stakeholders, and others have worked with groups abroad in Ecuador, in Colombia, in Mexico, and in Japan. So with that, I'm now very pleased to announce the awards administered by the faculty of the Master in Design Engineering program.
First is the Overall Academic Performance Award, which recognizes a graduating MDE student for outstanding academic performance in the Master in Design Engineering degree program. This year, the award is being given to Mengji Tan. In both core MDE courses and electives at 5 Harvard schools, Mengji has displayed work of the utmost academic caliber, receiving a distinction in both studio and for independent design engineering projects. Congratulations, Mengji. Next is the Leadership and Community Prize, which recognizes a graduating student who has displayed outstanding leadership and community building within the design engineering cohort, and who has represented MDE values to the world beyond. This year, the prize is being awarded to 2 students, Taylor Greenberg-Goldie and Mia Zaydan. Mia and Taylor have consistently engaged and supported their fellow students with both energy and compassion, whether helping to organize program feedback or lending a kind ear. That same tact and compassion extended to their interactions across the larger Harvard community and beyond, from fellow students and faculty to project stakeholders. Congratulations, Taylor and Mia. And finally, the Outstanding Design Engineering Project Award honors 1 or more graduating MDE students who have represented the design engineering project that contributes in the most compelling way to understanding and addressing a complex societal problem. This year, the award is being given to 2 students, Jacob Schomberger and Mengji Tan. Their project is titled Simple Future, and it did just that in addressing challenges around unclaimed property, which are often overlooked. Unclaimed property, in fact, accounts for some $60 billion in the US, and with Simple Future, Mengji and Jacob have redesigned the unclaimed property system to be more efficient and user-friendly, while improving customers' relationships with their banks. At both a systems and a human level, in terms of both design and engineering, their project is exceptional. Congratulations, Jacob and Mengji, and to all the students who received this year's awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, and congratulations to the students who received these awards. This concludes the awards portion of the program, so let us take a moment to congratulate again all of these graduates for their outstanding achievements. Very well done, everyone. Before we move on to the class day lecture, I have one more brief note to make. At this time, I'm very pleased to announce the creation of the Harvard Graduate School of Design Alumni Awards Program. The program is intended to celebrate the diverse range of expertise in our community and to recognize the leading role of our alumni often play in confronting some of the most serious challenges the world is facing today. More information about the nomination process for this inaugural awards will be shared soon, and we look forward to celebrating the inaugural recipients at next year's Commencement Award Ceremony in spring 2021. I would also like to take this opportunity to extend my deep thanks to the members of the Alumni Council who have been very supportive of establishing the awards program. Thank you all. I'm excited that we've now arrived at this year's Class Day address, which will be presented by artist and author Jenny Odell. Dean Whiting will now join us again to introduce Jenny. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Rahul, and a huge congratulations again to all our graduates who received awards today. And as Rahul indicated, I indeed now have the distinct pleasure and honor to introduce our 2020 GSD commencement speaker, Jenny Odell, who's an artist and a writer. Odell's bio on the website of Stanford's Art and Art History Department, where she teaches, describes her as making, quote, work at the intersection of research and aesthetics. One of my favorite of her projects is Satellite Landscapes, which researches the massive infrastructures of our transportation, waste, manufacturing, and power landscapes. Using carefully composed collections of satellite images, sketches, handwritten texts, and photographs, Odell traces connections from the scale of a light switch on the wall to a massive power plant on a city's edge. A project like Satellite Landscapes resonates with every one of our degree programs here at the GSD. Jenny came to my attention, a term I use quite deliberately, last summer with the publication of her book, How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy, which has a beautiful bouquet of a cover and a lovely dedication to her students. I referenced How to Do Nothing in that same all-school address last August in Sanders, and so we come full circle in having her here with us today. Her book looks at the contemporary context of hyper-efficiency, our guilt over, quote, wasted time, and the technologies that have captured but not cultivated our attention. Pay attention. Even that expression implies an economic obligation, so let's say instead, absorb, look carefully. And in addition to looking, always remember that the worlds that we design affect our senses, our relations, our histories, and our futures. Odell's answer to reclaiming attention is place, and more specifically, a focus on the natural world. Your own answers to reclaiming attention may be different, but I asked you all last August to try. And just because you're graduating, don't you dare ever stop reclaiming your attention. And now, let us all give our attention to artist, author, and GSD 2020 commencement speaker, Jenny Odell.
Hi, everyone. I'm speaking to you from my apartment in Oakland, California, although I have virtually placed myself in the Rose Garden nearby. And first off, I just want to congratulate all of you, the students, on this immense achievement, and to say sorry that I can't be there to celebrate with you in person. Also to just wish you well in whatever circumstances you may find yourself in. I also want to thank the Harvard Graduate School of Design for inviting me to speak. It's such a pleasure and an honor. I also know that many of you must be facing uncertainty far greater than that which is usual when graduating. I myself finished undergrad in 2008, which meant that I graduated directly into the recession. And I remember the way that that compounded what was already a loss of bearings as I entered a very different stage of my life. About 10 years after that, along an unpredictable and circuitous route that I hesitate to call my career, I wrote a book called How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy. And the book is about rethinking what productivity means, about learning where and when you are, and about the importance of moving one's attention with will. So I've been asked to speak to you with that book in mind. And so for the last few weeks, I've thought back to what points in the book might be useful to you in this strange moment. I've also thought about these things in the context of design. At Stanford, where I've worked for the last 6 years, I teach design to undergrads coming largely from outside of the arts and humanities in general, and I myself do not have a straightforward background in design. So my perspective on what design is and can do has always been a little bit of an outsider's view. With this in mind, and considering this moment that we're in, I want to take this time to propose to you 2 ways of thinking about design that are different from design as making. And those ways are design as a form of sense making and design as response. So first, I want to come back to that word career. As a verb, to career means to move at full speed. It's etymologically related to the word car. And yet, in my experience, many people who feel fulfilled in what they do would not see their trajectory that way. Certainly, I would not. What I have done and what I enjoy doing feels closer to a walk that starts and stops, one with no destination, where I often got lost or waylaid by something interesting. Sometimes I went in circles or walked in a labyrinth or climbed to the top of a hill. Sometimes I walked backward or with my eyes closed. And many times I stopped walking. I did nothing. Given what you all have been doing and studying, I'm sure you're familiar with this phenomenon within the act of making. I sometimes refer to it as the dark matter of the artistic process, the part that doesn't look like anything. It could be the accidental day off, the seemingly unrelated and unplanned conversation with a friend, the movie or event that you got dragged to. If you're me, it could be long stretches of time in which you feel unable to make anything, or at least anything good. I am a meticulous journaler, and there are years where I see myself complaining that I haven't done anything, haven't made anything, but I'm so clearly doing the bulk of the thinking that would later show up in how to do nothing. I bring this up because we're living in a moment of unprecedented urgency, and not doing anything that looks like something, writing, designing, making, can easily bring up feelings of guilt and anxiety. I've experienced a small version of this during the pandemic when a handful of outlets contacted me asking me for advice on how to do nothing in the pandemic. And my answer was usually no. My reasoning was that I had nothing to say. It was true. In an interview I did around that time with the artist and filmmaker Miranda July, she said that talking about the present was like being asked to describe falling while you are falling. In my case, I wanted to wait until I landed. My saying no was a small but firm insistence on my need for time and reflection. For someone in a creative field, it can almost be hard to believe that you continue to exist when you're not publicly producing or saying anything, but you do. I often ask myself, why is it so hard to hang back like this, even when it is so clearly something you need? Part of the reason is that the hustle is real, particularly now when so many are falling through our excuse for a social safety net. I think of something Oliver Berkman wrote in an article called Why Time Management is Ruining Our Lives. He says, quote, "In an era of insecure employment, we must constantly demonstrate our usefulness through frenetic doing." Or as I put it in How to Do Nothing, in a situation where all time is money, time is an economic resource that we can no longer justify spending on nothing. It provides no return on investment. It is simply too expensive. In this context, it's important to note that I'm at a place right now where I can afford to say no. I still have a full-time adjunct teaching job that, unlike many adjunct teaching jobs, pays my bills. And that, of course, is on top of a lifetime of countless other privileges. But even in this ideal situation, refusal feels expensive. And this gets at the second part of the difficulty, which I think is embedded more deeply in our psyches. It's also where I come to that first sense of design as sense-making. In How to Do Nothing, I draw on the work of musician and composer Pauline Oliveros, who developed a practice she referred to as deep listening. For her, deep listening was, quote, listening in every possible way to everything possible to hear, no matter what you are doing. Such intense listening includes the sounds of daily life, of nature, of one's own thoughts, as well as musical sounds. Oliveros incorporated this into her performances. For example, the 1989 album Deep Listening, in which she and other musicians wielding their voices, an accordion, trombone, didgeridoo, and electronics improvised in constant response to each other and their echoes. They did this in an underground cistern with a 2 million gallon capacity and a 45-second reverberation time. Oliveros wrote, "The cistern space, in effect, is an instrument, being played simultaneously by all three composers." The album, which is amazing, by the way, highly recommend, is a stunning example of how there is nothing passive about the act of listening. Indeed, listening and playing are inseparable in this performance, an ongoing response of players to other players and to the cistern. To listen is to stay awake and alive to the world as it is. And what I want to emphasize here is the reason that Oliveros gave for the importance of something like deep listening, which is something you have to practice. The reason was that we're taught to do the exact opposite of deep listening. Oliveros said, "In general, our cultural training dominantly promotes active manipulation of the external environment through analysis and judgment, and tends to devalue the receptive mode, which consists of observation and intuition." And this is something that once you start to pay attention to it, you will begin to notice everywhere, especially now. There's this leaning forward, grasping quality to everything, where the option to just observe without judgment never even presents itself. It's not just that we are constantly presented with information, but that it's expected that you have a take even as you're consuming it. Over and over each day, we ask ourselves, is it good or is it bad? Is this person on my side? What's my take? What's the immediate solution? More and more of this, faster and faster, and never the question, do I need to have a take? Do I need more time to think about this? Is this maybe more complicated? What led up to this? Not being given the time to ask these questions easily leads to a kind of myopia, where we can only react to what is in front of us instead of taking the longer or just a different view. This matters for everything, but I think it especially matters for sense making. For me, design is so often an argument about how to see the world, about what to pay attention to and in what order. It is a practice of perspective and scope, and therefore it requires the ability to step outside of every habitual way of seeing. One of the most generous and humane definitions of what it means to be a designer that I've encountered comes from Sarah Hendren, author of the forthcoming book, What Can a Body Do? How We Meet the Built World. In 2016, she gave a talk at I.O., which is the same conference I originally gave the talk called How to Do Nothing. And in her talk, which was called Design for Know-Nothings, Dilettantes, and Melancholy Interlopers, she speculates on a series of other words and phrases for designer, and one of them is orchestrator of attention. I've come back to that phrase ever since, orchestrator of attention. Compared to a solutionist or product-oriented version of design, orchestrating attention may look like nothing at all, but I would argue that it is the most substantive work you can do. In How to Do Nothing, one of the questions I ask is about the definition of productivity. I ask, productive of what, for whom, and why? For example, how can a company that ever more efficiently figures out how to monetize attention for financial gain, economically entrap the vulnerable, or extract more resources from the earth be considered productive in even the narrowest sense of the word? And on the other hand, what could be more productive than giving someone more access to their own experience, to a world that is richer and makes more sense, and therefore a world in which that person has agency? As someone whose perception of my surroundings has been fundamentally altered by artists like Pauline Oliveros and Sarah Hendren, I am always astounded by how truly generative this work is. When someone orchestrates your attention, it literally produces the presence of things in your world that were not there before. So now I am going to share my screen. Okay. And I'm going to go up in the corner. Okay. Oh. Okay. There we go. Oh, I can't see my notes. That's not good. Okay, give me 1 second, sorry. Not sure why it's doing that. View. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, it's gonna work. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so here we go. So in the book, a lot of my examples of this process come from bird watching. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I am very much a bird person. But today I want to give you a different example. The rose garden that I mentioned in the book is closed, the rose garden that's behind me. And during quarantine, I found myself instead walking uphill from my apartment. At some point, the hill itself and all of the hills around here came to the foreground of my attention. I started reading a local geology blog, lovingly kept up by a local geologist for more than 15 years, as well as a book called Geology of the San Francisco Bay Area. And slowly, over weeks of walking, reading, and zooming in and out on Google Earth, I learned where I live, in a canyon carved by a creek that runs under the street just down the block from my apartment. I learned that a new housing subdivision set improbably into the side of a hill is a former quarry of metavolcanic rock, and that in some of the parks here you will find the shells of ancient marine animals from when this land was seafloor. Most of all, when I look at that same outline of the hills that I have almost every day in the 4 years that I have lived in Oakland, there's some kind of explanation for what I'm seeing. It is not just random lumps and angles. It's reminded me of the progression from looking to recognizing and how the framing of attention puts new things in our world. Last week, I went on a hike alone in an open space preserve that I have been to many times. The main trail follows a creek through a canyon that rises steeply on both sides. After years of paying attention to birds and plants, I was able to pick out individual strains in the collective bird song, robins, song sparrows, and warblers migrating from Mexico. And I could name some of the plants as I passed them: thimbleberry, California buckeye, green spot nightshade. But there was something very different about this visit. When I took a trail up away from the creek and sat at a bench on one side of the canyon facing the other, I thought about something I had just read on the Oakland geology blog. The creek ran along a geological fault, meaning that the rock types on either side are different. It also meant that the hill that I was looking at might be moving faster in a northward direction than the hill I was sitting on. Then, on my way back to the creek, I started noticing all of the rocks: pebbles, boulders, exposed rock faces. I started using my binoculars, which I had originally brought to look at birds, to inspect faraway rocky outcrops. I found I had the same question about rocks that I'd had years ago about birds. Did I just not notice these before? What did I think they were? Just rocks? As if they were just somehow there, rather than the outcome of very real and specific phenomena that happened millennia before I came along to walk on them? Paying attention to rocks and thinking about a time frame outside not only my own lifetime, but outside of human temporality, ironically made me feel more at home in the world, or at least it helped me make sense of it. Over the course of my life, every new lens has added to this feeling that the world is not some arbitrary given thing, nor am I some anonymous and unrelated entity dropped into it. There is continuity between the rock's existence and mine. I am also humbly reminded of how much work, how much time and patience goes into even just beginning to grasp the complexity that surrounds me. In quarantine, an experience in which all time threatens to collapse into the same meaningless day, I have turned frequently to these other temporalities. When I wasn't thinking about the prehistoric collisions that made the hills I look at, I was looking at webcams showing eagles nesting in Iowa or peregrine falcons nesting in the UC Berkeley Tower, where the babies became the size of their parents in a matter of weeks, or almost the size. They're not full size yet. But I put a camera on a tripod and pointed it out my bedroom window, taking the same photo several times a day for months, recording the changes in light and the passing of clouds and rain. And I also read Philip Dray's book, There is Power in a Union, a labor history of the US that begins in the 18th century, and which helped me put so many of the current conversations about labor and individual risk into a broader perspective. What's important to note is that these temporalities are neither unrelated nor irreconcilable. Struggles play out, and beings are born and die, and clouds form and dissipate on this same rock whose pieces are still moving. As we speak, I am moving slowly, imperceptibly in a northwest direction. I believe that we individually have the ability to direct our attention, for example, to see in multiple time frames at once, or at the very least outside of the default temporality of everyday life. But I also believe that we need help doing this. And that's why, for me, the role of the artist and designer is that is most important right now, is as an orchestrator of attention, someone who can create the lenses with which we can see a completely different reality, not one that is imaginary or fabricated, but has in fact been there all along. Of course, doing this requires close attention on the orchestrator's part as well, which is what brings me to the second idea I mentioned of design as response. Not to the world as you want it to be or expect it to be, but a response to the world as it really is right now, in all of the detail that unfolds if you just give yourself time to see it. One of my favorite practitioners of this mindset is the Japanese farmer Masanobu Fukuoka. He is known for perfecting a system in the 1970s that he called do-nothing farming. Flouting the established protocols for traditional rice farming, he devised a way of farming that used far fewer inputs and less labor. Instead of flooding fields and sowing rice in the spring, he scattered seeds directly on the ground in the fall, as they would have fallen naturally. In place of conventional fertilizer, he grew a cover of green clover, and then threw the leftover stalks back on top when he was done. In the end, Fukuoka's farm was more productive than neighboring farms, and it also rehabilitated the soil instead of depleting it, as so many farms do over time. The system was even capable of creating farmable soil on inhospitable strips of land. And what I want to stress here is time. It took Fukuoka decades of observation and failed experiments to arrive at this system. Rather than imposing an abstract will on a compliant piece of land, what he was doing was more akin to patient collaboration. As you can imagine, for someone who finally figured out how to do more by doing less, Fukuoka had a great sense of humor. In his book, The One Straw Revolution, he wrote, "Because the world is moving with such furious energy in the opposite direction, it may appear that I have fallen behind the times, and that which was viewed as primitive and backward is now unexpectedly seen to be far ahead of modern science. This may seem strange at first, but I do not find it strange at all." In that book, One Straw Revolution, Fukuoka talks about an experience he had as a young man when he was studying plant pathology under a brilliant researcher. He essentially overworked himself to the point of hospitalization, and when he was discharged, he wandered to a hill overlooking the local harbor, falling asleep underneath a tree. When he woke up in the early morning, he was shocked into awareness by the flight of a night heron, incidentally one of my favorite birds, and the official bird of Oakland. He wrote, "Everything I had held in firm conviction, everything upon which I had ordinarily relied, was swept away with the wind. I felt that I understood just one thing. Without my thinking about them, words came from my mouth. In this world, there is nothing at all. I felt that I understood nothing." It's easy to read despair into that phrase, understood nothing. But what Fukuoka is describing is a moment of exhilaration, the underpinnings of the humility that eventually led to do-nothing farming. To understand nothing is to see everything, to have an empty enough mind to observe what is actually there. After all, it was humility with respect to the land and its inhabitants that allowed Fukuoka to design a successful system, one that made use of and did justice to the already present intelligence in the ecosystem. To come back to Pauline Oliveros, you could say that he was practicing a form of deep listening. I'll give you another example. When I was in high school, I often went to live figure drawing classes at the local community art center. And I often had difficulty with parts of the body that I had a lot of presumptions about, like faces and hands. But eventually I stumbled upon a trick where instead of trying to draw the outline of the body, I would draw the outline of the negative space around it. Though I couldn't have articulated it at the time, what this method did was improve the quality of my looking. I would never be able to get away from my preconceptions about what an arm or a leg looks like, but the shape formed by its negative space would always be unfamiliar to me, and therefore I would be forced to look more closely. I think I know what an arm looks like, but I don't know what this arm looks like from this angle at this exact moment under this light. And again, this is tied to humility. In this case, the idea that I don't actually know what I'm looking at, that I know nothing about it, that I am starting from zero. And thanks to my mom for saving these. Hi, Mom, if you're watching. The This idea of starting from zero came to mind recently when I was having a conversation with a former student who was about to graduate. She was asking me for advice, and I was having a hard time summoning any because it's currently so difficult to imagine the future. I found myself telling her to look for the affordances of the moment. By that, I meant to give herself time to actually observe this moment in all of its detail, in essence, to draw lines around the negative space, and in so doing, see the possibilities that might otherwise be obscured. On all sides, she, you, and I are surrounded by established pathways, established disciplines, established ways of making and looking at things. We are also hemmed in by the sense of urgency I mentioned earlier, and a future that may feel foreclosed, whether it's by the pandemic, climate change, or something else. In my experience, especially right now, the world will not provide you with an invitation to start from zero, to drop your armor and your assumptions and try to see it all as if for the first time. You have to provide that opportunity to yourself. But trust me that in any given moment, it is more possible than you think. You can even come to a point where you can create that opportunity for others. To see spaces differently is already to imagine different ways of moving through them. To see things differently is to imagine new uses for them. In the talk I mentioned earlier, Sarah Hendren details the many design solutions of Cindy, a disabled woman who qualifies for a robotic arm. While the arm is considered state-of-the-art design, it doesn't allow her to do things that she wants to do, like sign her name or eat with a fork. Using household items and materials like wax and zip ties, Cindy creates solutions that, while they may not look as designy as the robotic arm, Hendren takes seriously as design. They are real responses to the present situation using what is available. And in her use of them, Cindy completely recasts not only the object's use, but their significance. Her ability to do this stems from her intimate familiarity with her own disability and her specific knowledge of her everyday experience, something the designers of the robotic arm can never know as well as she does. I have thought of these designs frequently during the pandemic when we see so many things used as other things. A t-shirt becomes a mask, an empty school building becomes a test center, a Google Doc becomes the basis for mutual aid. Of course, these things do not negate the ways in which the government has mishandled the pandemic, but they are examples of close attention and response to the present with whatever is at hand. This attention to the present can extend out into an entire attitude, an entire orientation towards this historical moment. When I suggest that we accept the present, I am not suggesting that we acquiesce to its injustices. I mean that we accept the brokenness of the world as a starting point, and that we fight for and in this same world rather than an abstract, idealized one. Thomas Merton, another person I talk about in How to Do Nothing, embodied this way of thinking. Merton was a 20th century monk who lived as a hermit at a Trappist monastery in rural Kentucky. In 1948, he wrote an autobiography called The Seven-Story Mountain, which his friend described as, quote, the evocation of a young man in an age when the soul of mankind had been laid open as never before. During world depression and unrest and the rise of both communism and fascism, when Europe and America seemed destined to war on a brutal and unimaginable scale. The sentiment was relatable. The book sold millions of copies. But years later, Merton wrote to that same friend that he'd had a change of heart. He'd accompanied a clergyman on a trip to Louisville and had been standing on a street corner. Oh, getting a chat. He'd been standing on a street corner when he'd become overwhelmed with love for the strangers that surrounded him. He described it as waking from a dream of separateness. He was here in the same world with them, and it's been commemorated on the street corner. Later, in a book called Contemplation in a World of Action, he wrote some lines that have come back to me every day during this pandemic. If I had no choice about the age in which I was to live, I nevertheless have a choice about the attitude I take and about the way and the extent of my participation in its living, ongoing events. To choose the world is an acceptance of a task and a vocation in the world, in history and in time, in my time, which is the present. I like to think about what kind of design might proceed from this kind of attitude. Design that seeks not necessarily to construct, abstract, or replace, but design that responds to the present with the tools of the present. Design that accepts the existence of the world as it is in all of its beautiful and terrible detail. Design that lives in the flawed world with strangers, like Merton on the street corner. Design that doesn't build solutions from scratch, but locates and maps the possibilities inherent in the very fabric of the present. I personally believe that it's only after I have spent some time observing, drawing that negative space, listening for what and who is present, then maybe I have earned the right to ask, what is here that needs supporting? From that point, I can insert myself into the flow of things, aspiring to the careful attention of Pauline Oliveros or the subtle attunement of Fukuoka. For example, how might we orchestrate attention toward the workers who maintain the experiences of everyday life that many have taken for granted? How could we organize existing ideas and work that has already been done along new lines? How can we design or simply connect new coalitions in order to respond to the economic and environmental injustices of this moment? Or what happens when we think about design less as making than as a form of unmaking? At the end of How to Do Nothing, I put forth something I call manifest dismantling, which I imagine is the opposite of the 19th century doctrine of manifest destiny. I described manifest dismantling as a form of purpose bound up with remediation, something that requires us to give up the idea that progress can only face forward blindly. As a child of Silicon Valley, I am all too familiar with the way the word innovation is usually tied to the idea of materially putting something new in the world, rather than restoring something or putting it back in its rightful place. The example I give in the book is of a recent dam removal that took just as much design, engineering, and innovation as its original construction, if not more. So I also want to ask, what would design look like that aligns not with the logic of profit and production, but instead the logic of repair, reparations, and responsibility? Can someone working in design be more of a steward and a gardener than a straightforward producer? This doesn't just require sustained attention. It also requires major shifts in our ideas of artistic ego, productivity, and the definition of creativity. But these are just the sorts of shifts that the moment requires, and it, in fact, is teaching us, as we become more and more aware of our mutual reliance and the ways our actions affect others. As George Packer recently wrote in The Atlantic, the moment teaches us that the alternative to solidarity is death. Everything I've talked about so far, design as sense-making, design as response, accepting the world as it is, finding out what needs to be restored, these all have one really big thing in common, and it's patience. So that's the first of 3 concrete pieces of advice I have to give you. Be patient. Learning to inhabit different temporalities and scales of attention will help you do this, but it will always be difficult. In quarantine, as possibly many of you have, I have been thinking a lot about the meaning of patience and how different it feels from almost anything else. I also came across an incredibly resonant description of this quote, in a quote, often attributed to Viktor Frankl, but whose author is apparently actually unknown. And they said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay. So I have been keeping that last quote close at hand. Already, social media, advertising, and life in general are designed to eliminate the space between stimulus and response. And then on top of that, we're living in the midst of a disaster whose details seem to shift day to day, hour to hour. Practicing patience right now will make you feel guilty, or at the very least, it will feel unnatural, but it is essential. Remember that this moment demands not your knee-jerk reaction, your guilt, nor your anxiety, but your ingenuity. And that will only grow with time inside that space of possibility. Pry it open if you have to. That break in the cycle of reactions is the gap through which you can see other perspectives, temporalities, and value systems. You will need time to adjust your eyes. Give yourself that time and trust that it is necessary. The second piece of advice, and this comes very much from experience, is to drop the idea of getting it exactly right every time or ever. Over the last few years, I have really begun to appreciate the fact that we are changing in a world that is also changing. In my opinion, perfectionism attends an unrealistic view of the ego as a static, defensible thing that makes other static, defensible things, when from what I can tell, that simply isn't the way things work. Remember that even the rocks are moving. You are just one piece of the puzzle, and each thing you make has a long line of unmade things in front of it. It's enough, it's actually more than enough for you to be in the world, responding to it over and over again, moment to moment, from a place of deep attention and love. Perfectionism is also related to the idea of the personal brand, which I argue against in How to Do Nothing. I describe the thematic tightening of my Discover Weekly playlist on Spotify, where I wrote, at its most successful, an algorithmic honing in would seem to incrementally entomb me as an ever more stable image of what I like and why. This kind of design casts the self as an identifiable, bounded unit that is also easier to appropriate and advertise to. And I contrasted this with listening to local radio stations, specifically to being surprised by a song I like for reasons I can't actually explain. I wrote that when this happens, I sometimes feel like something I don't know is talking to something else I don't know through me. And when I apply this perspective to the act of making, I think about all the times I almost didn't try something because a preemptive perfectionism convinced me that I wouldn't get it right or that I wasn't a perfect expert in that subject. In the end, thankfully, curiosity got the better of me and made me step outside what I thought were my own boundaries. I surprised myself. I wasn't who I thought I was. And that brings me to my last piece of advice, which is whatever it is that you're doing, don't try to do it alone. Even if you're like me and you have what looks like a highly solitary process, appreciate how much of your thinking happens in conversations with others, in encounters with unexpected ideas and situations. You can't control that kind of stuff, and you shouldn't want to. There are infinite possibilities between you and other people, especially the ones you wouldn't expect. And here I'm also including artists and thinkers from the past. Sure, I have an identifiable sensibility, and I'm always going to have a Jenny-style take on things, i.e. birds and rocks will always somehow be involved, but I have no idea what will come from future encounters. And that not only gives me a reason to pay close attention all the time, it gives me a reason to get up in the morning, because you never know what you'll see or where it will lead. It also means that it's possible to make something larger, much larger than yourself. The publishing of How to Do Nothing, which is itself a tissue of references and ideas I had encountered over my lifetime, put me in touch with so many people working in art, ecology, tech organizing, and other fields, people who might not have come together by other means. When I think about what it is that I actually made, it's not this frozen physical object with pages. It's the new constellation that formed as a result, one that is still moving forward and shifting and changing how I think about everything. For many of us, the pandemic has been an isolating experience, but I think it's also an opportunity to think about how to build those connections with intention. After all, they're not going to form themselves. It's something you have to build. Believe me, if I could go back and change one thing, it would be this. I would have realized earlier the importance of asking questions of everyone, listening closely, and finding traction within the work that's already being done. That's my advice. But really, if you take anything away from this address, I hope that it's the ability to give yourself permission. Permission to be patient, to listen without yet needing to speak, to observe without needing to know, permission to not make anything at all for a while, permission to dwell in that space between stimulus and response, to take time to really see what's there, even while everything rages around you. And also permission to feel joy, even in the midst of all this, at the surprises that inevitably come with sustained attention and unfamiliar perspectives. Everything is, was, and will be touch and go. The world is our 2 million gallon underground cistern with a 45-second reverberation time, and we are playing it together right now. So thank you, and again, congratulations to all of you. You have so much to be proud of. Stay safe, keep breathing, and I am wishing you all the best.
Thank you, Jenny, for such a wonderful talk. Your advice to our graduates is absolutely insightful. In this world of flux that they're stepping into, reflection, slowness, pause, reiterative trial and error, wandering and imagining, new transitions, will all lead to a so much more joyous and richer existence. And not just for ourselves, but for each other. And not from a place of resignation, as you've pointed out, but with clearer eyes about the present moment and where we can go next. Thank you for these words. Clearly, absolute solutions driven by efficiency and all the many metrics of the old world will be a burden of sorts to shed. You have truly shifted our gaze to opening our minds every morning to the joy of waking and discovering new worlds of knowing, feeling, and new expansiveness. Thank you very much. In just a few minutes, we will proceed with the diploma ceremony. But before we do that, I'm pleased to welcome artist Michael Patrick Avery and the Trendsetter Brass Band for a brief musical interlude. They join us today from New Orleans as part of a short film that Michael and the band shot there just 3 days ago, specifically for our commencement. Thank you, Michael, and everyone for that wonderful performance. Just for everyone watching, I'd like to note that this piece is part of a longer video that we will show the rest of following today's program as graduates and their families make their way to the social hour we've planned for them. At this time, I'm honored to begin this year's diploma ceremony, And I would first like to invite Mark Lee, the chair of the Department of Architecture, to join me once again. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, Raul. I'm back from the beach.
Yes, no, you look like you've got a good tan. Nice to see you again. Before you proceed with the diplomas and announcing them from the Department of Architecture, are there words you might want to share with the graduates and their families who are watching from around the world?
Yes, I would. This is a momentous day for all of you as you stand on the threshold of an exciting future. It has been 84 years since the Graduate School of Design was established and 146 years since Harvard first offered courses in architecture. You all are now part of this long tradition of excellence, and I'm looking forward to see you become active participants in building upon this great tradition. I'm also looking forward to see you build the architectural world with your own generation. Remember that there's more power in building something that matters to you and your time than trying to get on the stage that already exists. Build what you like to see built, something that is meaningful to you and will benefit the generations after you. And finally, remember to define yourself not only by your achievements, but by how you survive your most difficult times. Once again, I would like to congratulate you on this tremendous milestone. Now it is my pleasure to introduce John Lott, Assistant Professor of Architecture and the Director of the Master in Architecture programs, who will present the candidates for this degree.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you today for this virtual commencement. Before we begin, I just want to say I am in awe at what you've accomplished. Architecture, more than we like to admit, is a reactionary discipline. During your time and tenure at the school, you've primarily reacted to the briefs and the problems that we've issued you. I was struck this final round of reviews discussing your thesis work that it was us, the faculty, reacting to your work. And for that, I congratulate you and welcome you as architects to the discipline. Without further ado, I present to you the candidates for the Master in Architecture. George Adam Abraham, Meriç Arslanoglu, Dylan Bakar, Yotam Ben-Hur with distinction, Sandra Benito, James Carrico, Antonio Calsaduc, Jing Chang, Yorgos Chatsopoulos, Bening Chen, Kevin Chong, Nicholas Delgado Alcega, with distinction, Claire Lin Jiang, Karen Duan, Stella Dwafardui, Panharith Ian, Yang Fei, Evangelos Vakailis, Trent Fredrickson, Christopher Nelson Gallegos, Daniel Garcia, with distinction, Angeliki Janisi, Anna Goga, Christina Leona Graydon, Kenneth Hasagawa, with distinction, Isa Teresa Hay, Conrad Holtzmark, Se Hong Hu, Jingyun Huang, Hyo Ran, Samantha Ingalina, Yong Ju, Jia Jung, Yunji Jung, Lena Karain, Sammy Corey, David Mitchell Kim with distinction, Min Young Kim, Joshua Aaron Kerr with distinction, Vivian Ho In Kwong, Peteris Lazovskis, Do-Yun Lee, Jonathon Lee, Rios Lee, Jessica Lim, Class Marshal, David Ling, Quinrong Liu, Diastika Lokaswaro, Karu Lovett, Fan Lu, Kun Lu, Radu-Remus Macovei, Nabila Mahdi, Benoit Miranda with distinction, Ian Miley with distinction, Milos Mladenovic, Matthew David Moffat, Jack Oliver Renler, Evan Matthew Orff, Mark Pantano, Francesca Perrone, Ethan Poe, Benjamin Pollock, Alciviades Pilotis, Hee Young Pyun, Louisa Respondek with distinction, Courtney Michelle Richardson, Ji-Yeon Roh, Kara Roberts, Edgar Rodriguez, Matthew Rosen, Melody Ann Sanchez, Thomas Shapercoder with distinction, Adam Charles Sherman, Ithaca Sherapand, Veronica Smith, William Frederick Smith with distinction, Anne Elizabeth Stack, Jacob Red Stinson, Adam Brown Strobel, Mahfouz Sultan, Pariah Supasid, Xiaotong Tang, Lee Tammy Tang, Hyo Chan, Omar Valentin Silva, Ever Vargas, Mackenzie Wasson, Chon Wing Adrian Wong, Huai Wu, Hong Shi, Shi Si-yong, Jonathon Koewler with distinction. Han Choi-yi, Euipoom Estelle Yoon with distinction. Jessica Sarah Young, Hyun-suk Young, Elena Zhang, Upo Zhang, Sylvia Zhao. Congratulations, everyone.
Thanks, John, and congratulations, graduates, on your achievements. Now I'd like to invite Anita Beresbetia, Chair of the Department of Landscape Architecture, back to join me again. Hi, Anita.
Hi, Rahul.
Nice to see you. And before we proceed with the diplomas from the Department of Landscape Architecture, are there any messages you have for the graduates from the department and their families who are watching?
Of course. To our dear students and soon-to-be alumni, the optimism you showed in your work as you explored and discovered an expanded relevance and methods in the medium of landscape architecture was truly palpable. Never let that optimism fade. The world will need your insights, your imagination, and your design vision. Stay in touch with one another. Work together. Keep alive that critical ethos that guided you during these formative years. Once again, congratulations to you for all that you have achieved. And congratulations to your families, friends, and significant others who have supported you in so many ways. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Gareth Doherty, Associate Professor of Landscape Architecture and Director of the Master in Landscape Architecture degree programs, who will present the candidates for this degree.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm reminded of my own graduation and the importance of rituals in our lives. Seamus Heaney, the Irish poet and Nobel laureate, gave the commencement address that day. I asked him to inscribe a book of his poetry for me. He wrote, "Walk on air against your better judgment." I didn't fully understand what he meant until now. To walk on air is to be very excited or hopelessly optimistic. Despite everything that is happening in the world today, despite the fact we're not in Gund Hall or in Harvard Yard, it's critical we remain hopelessly optimistic. As landscape architects, we know how important it is to think of the long duration. It's essential we imagine the future, because if we don't imagine the future, we have no hand in shaping it. And by walking on air, we can design better the land. It gives me great pleasure to present the following candidates for the degree of Master in Landscape Architecture. Michael Jehu An, Lamia Al-Muhanna, Dylan Elizabeth Fallon Anslow, Laura Hennig Cabral, Michael Cafiero, Carissa Laila Tejero Campus, Yoni Angelo de los Reyes Carnisi, Colin James Chatterton, Hannah Chaco, Sydney Conaway, Lou Dai, Warwin C. Davis, Yuru Ding, Wei Do, Sophie Elias, Simon Escabi Santos, Carson Fisk-Vittori with distinction, Isabella Caterina Frontado, Samuel Murdoch Gilbert, with distinction. Jilin Guy. Benjamin Carl Hackenberger, Class Marshal. Kevin Jin Hee. Dana Hills. Zoe Holland. Camilla Huber. Cecilia Huber. Kimberly Midori Huggins. Edith Justel. Chelsea Kilburn, with distinction. Sue Kim. Jonathon Koewler, with distinction. Jonathan Kerr. Andy Lee, with distinction. Xu Zhang Li. Danica Danielle Liangson, with distinction. Jiacheng Liu. Jiying Ma. McKenna Elaine Mitchell. Nadyeli Quiroz. Roberto Ransom. Eleanor Rockman. Ujay Song. Isaac W. Stein, with distinction. Jenna Tegeler, with distinction. Connie Trin. Yun Ting Tina Sai. Andrea Vasile Hoksha. Yifan Wang. Yujue Wang. Lele Wu. Yue Wu. Siwen Xie. Zhao Zhu. Jing Yan. Nan Yang. Wei Vivi Zhang. Chengjie Zhang. Tongtong Zhang. Xizha Zhang. Haoyu Zhao. Xinzhang. Jinyi Zhu. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, Gareth, and congratulations, graduates, on your achievements. I'd like to now invite Alex Krieger, Interim Chair of the Department of Urban Planning and Design, back to join me again. Hello, Alex.
Hello. It's warm here, so I was tempted to take a dip in the Charles River on my way back from Boston, but let me put my jacket back on and we'll continue.
Great. You look good. And once you've had your jacket on and before you proceed with awarding the diplomas, are there messages for the families and the graduates who are watching today?
Sure. First, congratulations to all of our dedicated urbanists. As we inexorably become an urban species across the world, the arduous task of creating and maintaining resilient, humane, socially just, and not least beautiful urban environments is among your challenges and your responsibilities. I know that each of you will commit the same degree of energy, creativity, wisdom to benefiting the cities of the world and urban life in general, as you have displayed during your years at the GSD. And to each of your families and loved ones and special friends, congratulations as well. I wish, as in past years, that I could meet and shake your hands for all that you have done and will continue to do on behalf of your proud graduates. We are also very proud of you as well. Take pleasure in this occasion. So now I have the pleasure of introducing Yves Blau, Adjunct Professor of the History and Theory of Urban Form and Design, and also Director of Research, who will present the candidates for the degrees of Master of Architecture and Urban Design and Master of Landscape Architecture and Urban Design.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. It's a great pleasure to be part of this virtual commencement today and to have the honor of presenting the urban design candidates. But before I do that, I would like to say a few words to our graduates. First, what a pleasure it's been to work and teach and learn with you over these last 2 years, and how very proud I am, and we all are, of your accomplishments. But most of all, at this moment of transition in your lives and in the world at large, I want to encourage you to recognize and to feel empowered by the knowledge that as urban designers, you are not only particularly well prepared, but also, I would say, uniquely equipped to tackle the wicked social and environmental problems that confront us today. I say that because it seems clear that in this new world, cities in the broadest sense are key sites that are and will be very important places in the coming years. They will be the places where new attitudes and ideas about community, about public health, about spatial justice, and in the broadest sense about how we inhabit this planet will inevitably evolve and take shape. As urban designers, you will be at the forefront of that effort. And I'm very much looking forward with high expectations to your contribution to it. And now, I'm honored to present the candidates for the degree of Master of Architecture in Urban Design. Justin Cawley, with distinction. Furash Ibrahim Shames, Wei Xing Chao, Yamei Chen, Jiawei Dao, Jose Esparza, Zihui Gong, Jung-Yoon Go, Laura Greenberg, with distinction. Yao Gu, Jing Hai, Camilla Huber, Jung Sing-Jiun, Saeb Ali Khan, Minzi Long, Yu Hang Lu, Young Lu, Ambika Malhotra, Class Marshal, Rafael Marangoni, Christopher Nelson, Mengyin Ouyang, Bo Min Park, Soledad Patiño, with distinction. Min Cheyenne Sheen, Shovan Prayesh Shah, Yuchin Shin, Adam Sun, Mayoran Sun, Penching Sun, Bill Tui III, Han Ning Tsai, Jiayi Wang, Wen Wang, Sin Wen, Cindy Xiao, Zhou Shi, Sun Fan Jung, Yu Chen Jung, Xi Jung, Keating Zhou, Yasung Zhou. I'm also pleased to present the candidates for the degree of Landscape Architecture in Urban Design. Dora Du, Sarah Fayed with distinction. Pu Yu, Zhenj Zhang, Tong Tong Zhou. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, Eve, and for all those perfect pronunciations as well. And congratulations for all of our urban design graduates. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Rick Pizer, the Michael D. Spears Professor of Real Estate Development and Director of the Master of Urban Planning degree program, who will present the candidates for this degree.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. It is such a pleasure to be part of this virtual commencement ceremony. Before I begin, I would just like to say that while we all wish we could be holding this ceremony in person, this year's graduating planning students deserve special recognition. You have been a passionate, committed class that my co-director Ann Forsyth and I believe have terrific futures ahead of you. You care about social justice and giving voice to the most vulnerable members of our communities. You will be the future leaders shaping our communities and cities. And now I'm very honored to present the candidates for the degree of Master in Urban Planning. Maria Valerie Barber, Patrick Braga with distinction, Amaya Bravo France, James Carrico with distinction, Antonio Castaneda, Avita Jasmine Chavez, Class Marshal, Jimena David Garza, Suryani Diwa Iyu, Eric Diaz, Emily McGovern Duma with distinction, Isabel Duprat, Sydney Hai Fong, Kimberly Geronimo, Margaret Haltom with distinction, Evan Hazlett, Abigail Susan Jamil, Benjamin Thomas Keller, Emily Sophia Klein, Gal Kramer, Andy Lee, Chelsea Lee, Saul Levin, Enan Lee, Kimberly Lum, Radu-Remus Macovei with distinction, Daisha Marie Martin, Moira McCrave Caragi, Ayesha Marotra, Brett Alexander Merriam with distinction. Amelia Muller with distinction. Benjamin Savali Notkin. Emma Ogiemwanye. Sarai Elizabeth Osorio. Sydney Lee Pedigo. Emma Victoria Phillips. Nevena John Pilipovich Wengler. Timothy Ravis. Juan Pablo Reynoso. Tierra Sharon Sachabel. Safir Shersad. Ray Su with distinction. Sydney Elizabeth Upchurch. Sarah Zoe. Congratulations to everyone.
Thanks, Rick, and congratulations, graduates, on your achievements. Now I'd like to invite Michael Hayes, co-director of the Master in Design Studies program, back to join me again. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Radu.
Before we proceed with the diplomas for the Master in Design Studies program, are there any words you'd like to share with the graduates and their families watching this?
Yes, thanks. You know, Rahul, we stress in the MDes program a lot of collaboration, but the work of an MDes student can also be quite independent. And I think our students in this cohort, some were particularly affected by these recent events. So we really congratulate them not only in gaining the expertise in their chosen areas of study, but to the students, I think you also have gained a personal strength as well. And you can move out into the world now that you see the world differently, you see it new. You'll reframe it with the knowledge and techniques that you've acquired here. The world now for you is one of vectors and flows and changing climates, material and political economies, ideologies and imaginaries, and all of the kind of concepts and knowledge that you've gained. You move out into that world, not just to continue to try to understand it, but now to try to help change it. Some of you will stay in the academy, moving directly into teaching. Some of you have already been admitted to doctoral programs, and we congratulate you there as well. Some will go back into practice at a higher level of expertise, a higher level of knowledge and technique, and some will start new practices, pivoting altogether in their career. Some will work for nonprofit and non-governmental organizations. All of you should feel the confidence of empowered designers and scholars and go out and try to make a difference in our world. And now, so congratulations. And now John May, who is the co-director of the Master of Design Studies, and who has been particularly close to this cohort working through this time, will now announce the candidates to receive the degree.
Good afternoon, and thank you. It's always an honor to be part of the GSD's commencement ceremonies, and certainly no less so this year. Before I confer the degrees, I want to just emphasize how remarkable the achievements of this year's group are. These past months, the entire semester, the year did not unfold the way any of us had hoped or planned. And we grieve that fact for sure. But we also celebrate the resilience of this group and their ability to complete their studies with excellence under such extraordinary circumstances. And now I'm very honored to present the candidates for the degree Master in Design Studies. Aditi Agarwal, with distinction. Shirin Amoué. Nadia Asfour. Zarina Atieg. With distinction, Nicholas Ayub. Hannah Bao. Adriel Deller. With distinction, Maharshi Bhattacharya. Francisco Brown. Wei Yi So. Winston Wanjun Chang. Xinzhu Chen. Elena Brigitte Clarke, with distinction. Tessa Crespo. Lindsay Renee Derry, with distinction. Dora Du. Guangyu Du. Mohammed Bakri. Romy Sayha. Aliyah Adi Iverson. Armida Fernandez. Isabella Catarina Frontado. Hao Ming Fu. David Gill. Sanan Goral. Wilfred Garon, with distinction. Mia Guo. Xian Guo, with distinction. Anirudh Gurumurthy. Jackson Howell. Qi Mingya. Fanyan Hu. Bingjan Francis Huang. Crystal Jarouge. K. Anthony Jones. Linda Eust. Maya Nagi Hazamel. Fiona Lauren Kenny. Ben Kessler. Sue Kim. Frankie Long, with distinction. Ao Li. Peilin Li. Phoebe Lin. Danica Danielle Leongson. Mingzi Long. Siyu Long. Victoria Patricia Lopez Cabeza, with distinction. Zuu Lo. Edward Patrick Madigan II. Vaishnavi Vivek Magar. Angela Marina. Risa Myers. Colleen Moran, with distinction. Santiago Aurelio Mota. Jimmy Pan, Class Marshal. Xi Yi Peng. Pond Panyanaramita. Nadyeli Quiroz. Delara Rahim. Belye Ren. Karan Saharya, with distinction. Alexandra Indira Sanyal, with distinction. Samantha Sauna Sarabia, Fernando Schrupp Rivero, Carolina Sepulveda with distinction, Vaishnavi Shukla, Lei Song, Isaac W. Stein, Mao Run Sun, Ryan Thomas, Amy Brooks Thornton with distinction, Yeshua Wagle, Juan Wang, Mon Fei Wong, Yifan Wang, Viviana Wei, Iris Siya, Ankung Su, Yang Junan, Jisoo Yang, Yao Wen with distinction, Lucy Yip,
Hopu Zhang,
Jingshen Zhang, Yiwei Zhang, Yiqi Zhao, Shouquen Zhu. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, John, and congratulations to all the graduates on their achievements. Now I'd like to invite Martin Bechtold, co-director of the Master in Design Engineering program, back to join me again. Hello, Martin. Before we proceed with the diplomas from the Master in Design Engineering program, are there any words you'd like to share with the graduates and their families who are watching? Martin, we lost you briefly.
Where do I start?
Your message that you might have for the graduates.
Sure, okay. Now?
Yep.
Thank you, Rahul. It's been really wonderful and inspiring to be part of this process of teaching and learning over the last 2 years with you, dear graduates. It's not only because you are such accomplished design engineers at this point, but also because you've developed such a wonderful sense of community and you're collaborative, you're very, very supportive. You've taken on hard problems, you have really integrated design and engineering methods, and you really make the world a little bit better, one project at a time, through your passionate efforts. So with this, it is now my great pleasure to introduce Fawaz Habal, the co-director of the Master in Design Engineering program, who will present the candidates for this degree.
Hello, good afternoon everyone, and thank you for being here. It's such a pleasure to be part of this virtual commencement today. We join here to recognize and celebrate the graduation of those students who have completed the requirement for the Master in Design Engineering. As you know, the MDE is a collaborative degree between GSD and SEAS. Over the past 2 years, students have learned how to address grand human challenges using multiple lenses and variety of techniques. They work together as well as they work as individuals. They have done an amazing job and found mitigation and solutions to several wicked challenges. Congratulations, students. Now you are ready to go out to the world, inspire people, and guide them as you continue your mission to help society find a better future. The world is waiting for your contributions. I'm really honored to have worked with you. I'm also very honored to be with you in this celebration. Congratulations on a meaningful and inspiring work. And now, I'm very pleased to present the candidate for the degree, Master in Design Engineering. Berlin Bai, Yoshpu Teda, Robert Samuel Clay, David Gomez Gill, Tyler Greenberg Goldie, Klaus Marshall, Mitsui Eliza Guerrero Monsalvi, Togo Okida, Oliver Loh, Anahid Nahal, Hain Roh, Jacob Schoenberger with distinction, Zonghin Siwen Sun, Mongchi Tan with distinction, Daniela Tiran Andara, Hanif Wilkak Suno, Emily B. Yang, Mia Zidan with distinction. Congratulations everyone, and so long.
Thank you, Fawaz, and congratulations all the graduates on your achievements. Now I'd like to once again invite Martin Bechtold back on the screen with me. He's also director of the Doctor of Design Studies program, truly a model citizen of the GSD. Welcome back, Martin.
Thank you, Rahul, and sorry for the glitch earlier.
No problem at all. And before we proceed with you awarding the diplomas from the Doctor of Design Studies program, are there any words you'd like to share with these graduates and their families watching from around the world?
Sure. So let me just acknowledge these wonderful graduates. They've all done excellent research on topics that they're personally invested in, but that also matter greatly to their audiences in the academy and in practice. They contributed original knowledge to a field. That is a great accomplishment. Not just have they contributed knowledge, they've also been contributing a lot to the GSD community as teaching fellows in courses. They've contributed ideas, their energy, and their critical voices. They really give testimony to our belief that design-centered knowledge matters when shaping the built environment. So with that, I'd like to now present the candidates for the degree Doctor of Design. But before doing so, I need to make one more note, which is that normally at this ritual, we would be hooding these candidates, and most importantly, the primary advisor would be doing this. Clearly doing so is now very difficult, so instead we have asked the primary advisor to write a short letter to the candidates that I will gladly share. So with that, without much further ado, I'd like to present the candidates for the degree Doctor of Design. Yoon Fu. Yoon's dissertation is titled Schemas in a Design Problem, Building in Seismic Regions Diversely Considered. Yoon's advisor is Peter Rowe, Raymond Garr Professor of Architecture and Urban Design, and Harvard University Distinguished Service Professor. Peter wrote the following note to Yoon. Morena Yoon, kia ora. Dear Yoon, hello. As one pakeha to another, you have certainly had magnificent innings here at Harvard, with the AIM Medal as an MArch student, the British Rome Prize earlier this year, an emergent practice with Guo Wenting, and completing your DDS thesis in no time flat. I will always remember that lovely celebratory lunch with Farshid and Hanif in East London. I have also greatly admired the manner in which you have undertaken these achievements with aplomb and taking everything easily within your stride. Your treatment of others around you along the way has also been impeccable. I now look forward to working with you on our book projects.
at least one of which has already been signed on. I also look forward to working with you again as a teaching colleague here at the GSD within the Urban Design program. In this regard, you have already made yourself indispensable. Kia koe, congratulations. Kia kaha, be strong. Peter Rowe. Next is Jiao Kai Huang. Jiao Kai's dissertation is titled Power Play, Leaders in State-Owned Enterprises in the Making of Shenzhen. Jiao Kai's advisor is also Professor Peter Rowe. Peter sent the following note to be shared. Dear Jiao Kai, Gongji. Another milestone crossed for you, although, personally, I am sad to see you leave. You have constantly reminded me that teaching is a two-way street. I have learned substantially from you, particularly during our lofty but probably arcane discussions to many about the People's Republic of China's direction and leadership. You did a masterful job in piecing together from concrete archival evidence the real story of Shenzhen and Deng Xiaoping, contrary to what has usually and more casually been assumed and written. Please, as you go about your new role as an international consultant, do not lose the habit of going where the evidence leads you. Salutations also to your parents and to the guy who we called Mario Andretti, their driver, who rescued me so often from the bowels of Hongqiao railway station. It has been a privilege to know and work with you. Jeje, Juji, Anquan. Thank you and please be safe. Rekinde. Warmly, Peter Rowe. Next is Yingying Lu. Yingying's dissertation is titled Walking Culture in China. Yingying's advisor is also Professor Peter Rowe. Peter sent me this letter addressed to Yingying. Dear Yingying, Gongji. It has been quite a journey from your village in central West China many years ago, studying at Tsinghua, then completing your master's and doctoral studies here at Harvard. The intelligence, grace, and elegance with which you have made this journey is remarkable to me. Perhaps it was destined that you would study and write about the culture of walking in China as your topic. I hope that Marco and Bruce are with you and recognize just how formidable their mom really is. I am also sure your achievements resonate very well with Professors Bian, Song, and Liu back at Tsinghua. I look forward to being around doing your postdoctoral work with us in the near future. You know our office is always open to you. Jeje, Juji, Anquan. Thank you and please be safe. Rekinde. Warmly, Peter Rowe. Next is Jeffrey Scott Nesbitt. Jeffrey's dissertation is titled Spaceport, Technical Lens for Departing Earth. Jeffrey's advisor is Charles Waldheim, John E. Irving Professor of Landscape Architecture and the Director of the Office for Urbanization. Charles shared this note addressed to Jeffrey. Congratulations, Jeff, on the successful completion of your Doctor of Design. Your dissertation offers an original and essential contribution to the discourse across a range of disciplines. I fondly remember your invitation for me to visit you and your students in Texas, and I was pleased that you accepted our invitation, joined the GSD, DDES, and the Office for Urbanization. Your decision to step out of a successful career in teaching and research was indicative of your character and commitment to the work. As a member of the GSD community, DDES cohort, and Office for Urbanization, you have emerged as a leader. In your brief time with us, you have contributed consequentially to the life and culture of the GSD, DDES, and Office for Urbanization. You have edited New Geographies number 11, Extraterrestrial, and convened a series of seminars on technical lands. And you have made indelible contributions to each and every project in the Office for Urbanization. We are happy to celebrate your accomplishments and contributions to our community, and are pleased to appoint you as postdoctoral fellow at the Office for Urbanization for the 2020-21 academic year. Congratulations, Charles. Next is Zhonghyun Wu. Zhonghyun's dissertation is titled Accessibility Impacts of Transit Development Areas in Seoul. Zhonghyun's advisor is also Professor Peter Rowe. Peter shared this note addressed to Jung Hyun. Dear Jung Hyun, Chukaheo, you have certainly come a very long way during the course of both your master's and doctoral programs of study here at Harvard, transforming yourself from an accomplished design practitioner into an expert urban analyst. I and all the members of your dissertation committee were in great admiration of the skill, tenacity, and sheer capacity you brought to bear in compiling your data sets and supporting evidence. Before I met you, I was very aware, through friends and colleagues in South Korea, of the lofty reputation of your earlier alma mater, EOAS Women's University. You have done nothing but further elevate that reputation in my view. In addition, you bring an engaging and cheerful disposition to your work, which positively influences those around you. Accordingly, I see nothing but a bright future for you. Gamza Hapnida, thank you. Jololi, warmly, Peter Rowe. Next is Longfeng Wu. The title of Longfeng's dissertation is Social Spatial Inequality of Access to Urban Green Space, a Case in Beijing. Longfeng's advisor also is Professor Peter Rowe. Peter shared this note addressed to Longfeng. Dear Longfeng, Gongji, it has been both a pleasure and a privilege to work with you. In particular, I relished the moment when you discovered what proxies were and how to really exploit them in your work. Your sheer energy and drive were both infectious and indomitable, as your thesis work clearly shows. It has been an honor to co-author several journal articles with you. Wandering around Tongren in Guizhou and Miao villages just before this pandemic's onset was a treat, and I still look forward to working on Nankou town north of Beijing with you when BFU gets back fully on its feet and we have time. I also look forward to watching you climb up through the ranks at BFU, as I'm sure you will, in the not-too-distant future. You have a bright future in front of you. Juji Anquan, please stay safe. Rikinde, warmly, Peter Rowe. Next is Dingliang Yang. Dingliang's dissertation is titled Between the Past and Future, The Transformation of the Pearl River Delta. Dingliang's advisor is Joan Busquets, Martin Buxbaum Professor in Practice of Urban Planning and Design. Joan shared these words about Dingliang's work. Research by Dingliang Yang on transformation of the Pearl River Delta between the past and the future is an original piece of work about an immense metropolis, and it develops a method that makes possible the understanding of the region's complexity by scanning it with the lenses of a few spatial concepts. It was an almost impossible task. His dissertation was a test of his capacity of working with big data and synthesizing them into maps as explanatory as they are beautiful. Today we have to acknowledge great changes in the interpretation of the metropolis and the search for new categories that is taking place in such places as Paris, the Netherlands, and New York. But Yang's research provides new insight by showing the power of new concepts like the network of twin cities and the preeminence of multi-scale public transportation systems, concepts he is proposing as new paradigms for discussion in the global debate. Congratulations to Dingliang Yang for his effort, and we are eager to witness his growing interest in this challenging field. Joan Busquets. And we will conclude with Yongmin Yu. Yongmin's dissertation is titled Living on the Skyline, Rooftop Housing in Seoul, Hong Kong, and Taipei. Yongmin's advisor is also Professor Peter Rowe. Peter shared this note addressed to Yongmin. Yongmin Yu, Chukaheo. Thank you for memorable years here at Harvard, from your early days in the MLA program and then in your doctoral studies. You have a determined, clear-headed yet nuanced way of working that is admirable, and I hope you will carry it forward with you. Indeed, I look forward very much to continue to work with you as you continue to move back and forth between Seoul and New York. I also hope to see Living on the Skyline as a good read in the near future, just as I vividly remember standing with you on the roof of the Daldongne near Namsan Mountain in central Seoul so many years ago and marveling at the gorgeous panoramic view. Salutations to Danielle, Maddie, and Mr. Yu. I look forward to seeing them all in the future. Yo-Yo Lee, Peter Rowe. Congratulations to all the graduates and thank you.
Thanks, Martin, and thanks for reading out all those wonderful letters and greetings and messages in so many languages, and congratulations to the graduates on your achievements. Now I'd like to welcome Erica Noginski, Robert P. Hubbard Professor of Architectural History and Director of the PhD program. Very nice to see you, Erica.
It's lovely to see you, Rahul.
And where are you broadcasting from?
So I am broadcasting from what I guess is arguably the oldest settled small town in Connecticut. It's called Wethersfield and dates back to 1634.
Wow, so it's, 2 or 3 years older than Harvard University, yes.
2 years,
yes.
I think 2 years, yep.
Very nice. The PhD program at the GSD is really special. It's small but encompassing of so many disciplinary interests. Can you tell us a little bit about the breadth of these research interests?
I'd love to, Rahul. And you know that I'm always thrilled to sing the praises of our doctoral students, both in the DDoS and the PhD, as well as to say a few words about the PhD program in architecture, landscape architecture, and urban planning. As you know, the program holds a very special place at the GSD because it's a kind of crucial link to the Harvard Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, to Harvard's other professional schools, and therefore to our broader intellectual community. And what this means is that our faculty come not only from the GSD, but also from such departments as history of art, economics, sociology, history, even the Kennedy School. And this is really a testimony to the relevance and intellectual breadth of the design disciplines. And as I think about the kind of slow thought that imbues the research our doctoral students undertake, I want to say a few just words about the research topics that are currently being undertaken by our students right now. We have a student looking at the links between territory engineering and archaeology in the Muslim world. Another who is writing a dissertation on ephemeral architecture and European absolutism. Another on landscape urbanism's role in the first industrial revolution in England. We have someone who's just about to finish, whose dissertation is on the intersection of architecture, urbanism, and modern political structures in South Korea. This is actually but a taste of the innovative nature of their work, and recent graduates of the program now teach at institutions such as Emory, Columbia, Yale, the University of Rochester, and the University of Toronto.
Fantastic, my gosh. So before we proceed with the diplomas, or I think in this case the diploma, because you have one candidate in the Doctor of Philosophy program, are there any words you'd like to sort of share about the candidate and share with his family who are watching this from different parts of the world, actually?
Well, that would be a joy. Where Justin is concerned, I think I should remind everyone watching, your family, Justin, friends, and onlookers, that after completing the bachelor degree at Sarah Lawrence College and the University of Oxford, you actually earned the Master of Urban Planning at the GSD before joining our PhD cohort. The doctoral research you undertook here involved the interplay of economic development, technological disruption, and urban design in the major cities of East and Southeast Asia. I think the politics of labor are writ large here, and I'm not surprised that the quality of that dissertation immediately earned you a tenure-track position, and that you are now in your first year as Assistant Professor of Urban Studies at Yale News College in Singapore, where you are no doubt bringing your expertise to bear on the history and theory of urban form in rapidly urbanizing regions like the one you are, in fact, now in. So speaking of success, I am very honored to present this year's one candidate for the degree Doctor of Philosophy, Justin Stern.
Justin's dissertation title is Global Outsourcing, Local Transformations, Transnational Business and Urban Restructuring in the Philippines. His advisor is Yves Blau, adjunct professor of the History and Theory of Urban Form and Design and director of research. Again, normally, during this part of the ceremony, a graduating student would be joined by their advisor on stage, and the student would be hooded. Because we cannot replicate that ritual online, Justin's advisor, Yves, has sent him this note, addressed to him, which I will share. Dear Justin, I am so sorry that I cannot physically hood you in real space in today's ceremony, and I look forward to doing so at a later date when we can all gather. It has been a pleasure and a privilege to work with you and to advise your dissertation. The dissertation itself breaks new scholarly ground. First, through its multiple critical lenses that allow us to understand urban transformations in terms of actors and practices, as well as global economic processes. And second, through what I would call its close attention to the human scale and condition that shows us how those transformations are impacting not only the daily lives, but also the future prospects of those who inhabit and labor in those environments. This kind of investigation requires not only a broad set of skills, endless curiosity, and a deep humanity, all of which you have in spades, but also a willingness to ask difficult questions and to refrain from easy answers. It is my greatest hope and firm conviction that you will keep doing just that, Justin. Good luck and good travels, Yves. Congratulations to Justin and all of today's graduates. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica, and congratulations, Justin. You've done us proud. All the very best. And now, the final part of the diploma ceremony. I'd like to, and I'm very pleased to, welcome John Peterson, the curator of the Loeb Fellowship Program. He will announce the Loeb Fellows who have completed this year in residence at Harvard. Hi, John.
Hi, Rahul. How are you?
Good to see you. And are you broadcasting from one of the Loeb houses?
I am. I'm just a few blocks away from Gund Hall, a place, Gund Hall, that I miss more than I thought I would. I miss the people, of course, but I'm jealous you're there now.
You are all here in spirit. I can feel those vibes. Anyway, the Loeb Fellowship is such a special program at the GSD, and it contributes in amazing ways to the culture of our school. And I understand you complete 50 years this year.
Yeah, this is our 50th year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Yes. No, this is, yeah. But so tell us something about the fellowship.
Well, it's unique. One, it's mid-career practitioners, and we identify leaders in the field at mid-career who are shaping the built environment. And one of the unique parts of the fellowship is how we define those that are shaping the built environment. And they include architects, landscape architects, urban designers, and planners. But maybe more importantly, we include artists and journalists and policymakers and politicians. Even a few years ago, we had a particularly socially progressive retailer as a fellow who is and was a great fellow for us. So we're always exploring ways of bringing exciting new leaders here to the GSD.
So before you proceed with the certificates for the Loeb Fellowship, would you like to say something to the fellows and their families?
Yeah. This is just the beginning. Fellows do not receive a degree. They receive an experience. And what we're doing is investing in the impact of their futures. So while they're here as pursuing an independent study and have a lot of leeway as to how they pursue that, and their restrictions are very limited, we have very high expectations for them. And really, we're looking at what they do after they leave the GSD. And with that, I'm very proud to present this year's class of Loeb Fellows.
Pedro Godano, Elizabeth K. Miller, Deborah Helene Morris, Lenyo Miravili, Deandria Janae Nichols, Wolfgang Johann Reeder, Andrew Paul Salzberg, Paloma Abigail Strelitz, Michelle Joan Wilkinson. Congratulations, fellows. Now, go change the world.
Thank you, John, and congratulations again to all of this year's Loeb Fellows. So we come to the kind of closing part of the ceremony, and I would like to start by once again congratulating all the graduating students. This has been a very special commencement and historic as the first virtual one ever, and hopefully the last solely virtual one. Maybe we'll have these combinations in the future. We do hope many of you will come back next year for the your first year reunion and celebrate with the graduating students of 2021. That'll be wonderful, and I think the university is planning to facilitate an event around that, hopefully. I would also like to sort of thank, before we sign off, the team that has put this event together: Ken, Paige, Estifi, Erica, John, Laura, and especially Matt and his team, Seth and Brian. I mean, it's just amazing, you know, what they've done here in the Piper and at Gund Hall to set stuff up. It's just quite mind-blowing, actually. So thank you, guys, pulling this together. You know, they've sort of seamlessly combined live and recorded material to make this virtual commencement reach out to to our graduates and their families and friends really around the globe. And so this has been one commencement where more people than ever have managed to access. And so thank you guys for pulling this all together. And to all of you graduating today, you know, every email ends these days by stay well, keep well, stay safe. I'm just going to say stay hale and hearty and go into the new world that awaits you. Your education and this emergency pivot that you made to the virtual world in this last semester has prepared you well for this new normal. And it's amazing how we've all managed to work together to make this happen. And so thank you very much for partnering with us, faculty, to make the semester end, and especially for the graduating students, you know, where it was such an important last semester, but the spirit with which you guys pivoted and partnered with us was absolutely amazing. These past months and coming ones will leave a very particular trace, a trace that we hope will be productive, will change us. And I mean productive in the way Jenny described for us today, which will allow us as a species perhaps to reset our values, our lifestyle, and our relationship with nature. And I would even say our relationship with knowledge and truth. This is the world we hope you will make out of this moment as you go out having graduated. Before we officially close this ceremony, I want to make two brief notes. Graduates, please remember that your department and program, social hours, will start happening shortly after Dean Whiting's closing remarks. We very much look forward to seeing you there, and I invite everyone to visit the GSD's homepage to view our annual commencement exhibition featuring the incredible work that the students from across the school have produced this year, which usually goes up in the Drucker Gallery, but it's all up there virtually for you to enjoy and to congratulate each other. Thank you once again, everyone. And now to turn to our closing. I think we're going to have a surprise here. I see that Sarah might come on and surprise us. Matt, hold on to your feed. We've got to shift to audio. We've got to get Sarah on. Sarah.
Oh my gosh, Rahul.
What a great surprise. So wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I just couldn't resist calling in live with my live congratulations to you and the whole GSD faculty and staff team that's just put together this amazing and unique ceremony.
Thank you
so much. I really loved the photos of all the students. It's been incredibly moving to see each one of them graduate today. You know, we had 352 students receive GSD diplomas today. And in addition to them, one of our students, as Erica pointed out, Justin Stern, received the Doctor of Philosophy from Harvard's Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. 14 of our 352 students who received diplomas received concurrent degrees, which means they got a degree from more than one GSD program. And 5 got joint degrees, which means they got a GSD degree and a degree from another Harvard school. 4 of those 5 from the Kennedy School, and 1 was a joint degree with the School of Public Health. So that's a grand total of 372 degrees. That's pretty extraordinary, and each one of them was very moving. So you did a fantastic job as MC, Rahul, but didn't you miss just one thing? After all, you have one very important title in addition to Dunlop Professor, incoming UPD Chair, Dean Designate, and that's the title of Dad. I think one of our MUP graduates deserves a special extra message from you.
Yeah, oh gosh. Oh, I'm really touched that you brought that up. So, Aisha, we're really proud that you're graduating, and I'm particularly happy that now my colleagues in the planning department will finally say that we have a real planner in our family of architects. So thanks for doing this. Congratulations.
And congratulations from me too, Aisha. And now I'd like to leave you all with these concluding remarks. I too offer once again my congratulations to the entire graduating class of 2020. I also want to use this moment of conclusion to offer my congratulations to a faculty member who's also graduating in a sense from the GSD. After teaching here for 40 years, Alex Krieger, professor in practice and current chair of the Urban Planning and Design Department, is retiring, making this the last of his commencements. Well, the last as a faculty member. At his next graduation, he'll be sitting in the parents section cheering on his son Isaiah, who's finishing his first year of the landscape program right now. In addition to teaching design studios and seminars at the GSD, Alex has been teaching an undergraduate course on the evolution of American cities. For all of us who didn't have the good fortune to take that famously successful course, in 2017 he was named one of 15 Professors of the Year by the Crimson. I recommend that you go out and buy and enjoy his beautifully written book, City on a Hill, Urban Idealism in America from the Puritans to the Present, which was published last year to great acclaim. Alex, congratulations, and thank you. We're going to miss you here. I also want to recognize some faculty who are leaving us for illustrious positions elsewhere. Professors Sai Balakrishnan, Neil Brenner, Rosetta Elkin, Teresa Galeazar, Mike Hooper, and Jesse Keenan. Thank you all for all you've given to the school, and most especially to our students. In closing, and before we disband to our various social hours with faculty, colleagues, friends, and family, I want to return to you, our graduating students. If you've been paying attention, I've already asked you 2 things: to lead important conversations and to reclaim your attention. I have one more request before we let you go. I want you to approach the world out there, the world that needs all of you and your collective intelligence, with what I'd call a deliberate intellectual generosity. All 3 of those words are key. I want you to work out there the same way you worked here at the GSD. Deliberately situate issues broadly, tracing the synthetic relations that join our disciplines and that join design to the world. At the same time, never forget to square these general, broad views with particular circumstances. Pay attention to both context and to specifics. Intellectual generosity means that you can never stay at one end or the other of this spectrum, because it's easy to remain awash in generalities, never challenging yourself with specific circumstances. It's also easy to bore down into the specifics, never challenging yourself to step back and draw conclusions or posit big synthetic changes. So in addition to reclaiming your attention, please go out and be deliberate in ensuring that that attention always includes these 2 poles of the general and the specific. And be generous in doing so. Generous in seeking and hearing out others, and generous in challenging yourselves. You're all well positioned for these challenges. We here at the GSD are grateful for all that you've brought us over these past few years. Now we look forward to seeing what you're going to do out there. Thank you, congratulations, and good luck to the class of 2020.